with Patricia Wayua in the studio na kuna ule jamaa wa jana ambaye he literally brought a new vibe and a new energy, and I'm talking about none other than City Muga. City, good morning to you.
Morning to you, sir.
Yeah, Patricia, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
You had your nice hot cup of coffee or cocoa or tea?
Of course.
Yeah.
In the morning.
Because I saw you sipping something and I was like, the way ulikuwa unafunga macho ukisip hiyo kitu.
Imagine it's just hot water.
Oh, it was just hot water?
Yes, in the morning, yeah.
All right. Sawa. Folks, let's get right into it. I didn't see you taking anything though.
You
it's because I came after you've taken it.
Even when you were there,
yes,
it's just that I sip my coffee intermittently, so it's very likely you will not see me drinking it. Yes, I don't focus on drinking the coffee.
Yeah,
I was focusing on reading
on
something.
other things.
Yes.
Okay. Sawa. Sio kama Patricia, she was all over the place.
No,
enjoying her hot water.
No, that is not a clear representation of what Patricia
He's lying.
You didn't see her go to the kitchen. You didn't see her go to the studio. You didn't see her go to the boardroom while holding her cup of coffee.
It's just holding a cup.
What I've now begun to think is, what were you doing, observing and doing all these things?
But being a colleague, I am concerned.
About what?
Maybe she could be unwell. She could be looking for something. So if I see her getting into maybe a space that she's not used to, I'll be like, Patricia, can I help you? Are you okay?
Actually, whatever he's saying is about himself. Yeah.
Nimeanza kunigeuzia serikali hapa.
Wajua serikali ni yako mbele. Sasa wewe ndio utaamua jinsi utakavyoendeleza hiyo serikali yako.
Nimekubali. It is 2 minutes past 6 o'clock. Patricia, today, this morning, which day are we celebrating?
Well, today we are celebrating, observing 2 special days.
All right.
Our first one is International Digital Adoption Professionals Day. International Digital Adoption Professionals Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it a day that the UN came up with, or it's just one of those random ones that people decide?
Okay, this is just a random one that, of course, has been established by this one body called WalkMe about digital, the digital. Okay, so
Digital Adoption Professionals Day.
Yes. Okay. So this one is celebrated, of course, actually to honor the professionals who drive the adoption of new technologies. Yeah, within organizations, ensuring seamless digital transformation and maximizing the value of techno investments.
So when you said adoption of new technologies, why did you look at CT?
All right, as opposed to looking at what?
Because like, okay, you are not asking why I looked at you. I looked at you, I looked at CT. I'm looking at both of you.
All right. So we are adopting new technologies, or rather we are celebrating people, individuals, professionals.
Yes.
Who are in the adoption of new technologies.
Yeah, we are looking at the techno engineers. Those people who are coming up with softwares in the digital space. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa.
Do you have anything to say about technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think we adopt technology on a daily basis. Why? Because new things emerge every single, like yesterday, a very good example. Yesterday, I was requested for, someone asked me to do a voiceover for them, and because I've been in the voiceover business for quite a while. So when they asked me to do this voiceover, they told me that the reason why they are asking me to voice for them is because they would like to run my voice through an AI software to enhance it a bit for their product. Okay. So again, for the very first time, I have never had to use AI in that kind of way, and I felt, because kitambo, you just get onto a microphone, record, they go tweak your voice a bit, clean it up, do a bit of mastering, and it's good to go. But for the first time, this producer told me they're going to take the voice through an AI software to enhance it to the liking of the client. And for the first time, I was like, okay, yeah, AI might be taking our jobs, but they're taking it very slowly. Yeah, because I've lost a couple of clients to AI to AI voicing.
Have we lost them for good, or have we lost them temporarily?
I would say for I think it's for good, to be honest. I think it is for good.
Why do you think? You do know that when computers first came into being,
right,
it was assumed computers are going to replace human beings in everything.
True.
That hasn't happened
yet,
and it won't happen.
It hasn't happened yet.
It won't happen. There is a limit to what a creation can do. There's a limit to what an equipment can do. Artificial, note.
Artificial.
It's artificial.
Intelligence. You have the intelligence. human beings have it. They've bequeathed this equipment, that
Right.
intelligence. That's why it's called artificial intelligence. Yes, it was created. It didn't create itself. Yeah.
But right now we are even seeing news stories being anchored by AI created videos.
Yeah.
Well, they are doing that. They are doing
Whereby
that.
the same script our news readers get.
Yes.
You just feed it into the AI and you give it a persona and it reads the entire damn script.
But haven't you seen what you've just said? You take something, you put it here,
Yeah.
you program it,
Yes.
and you let it do.
So I'm the human being behind it.
If it could do it on its own without your input, then it will take over your job.
Okay, this is how
Well, I think
Yeah.
in terms of technology, even if we will be replaced, it cannot replace each and every person, because there, of course,
But
there are
some people will be
there are some
replaced.
professionals.
Yeah.
There are some professions, there are some careers that AI will not do. There are careers that require creativity, careers that require emotions. Yeah, those ones, of course, AI cannot replace.
They are creating AIs that can imitate emotions. Oh yes, if the 21st century is the information age, and they are tinkering with literally anything and everything that a human being does, and they're trying to determine whether, I'm calling it equipment, the equipment that we're creating can do these things. There are many things they'll be able to do. There's always a limit, and behind every AI there'll be a human being who's giving directions.
Right. However, like in the case I gave of the news anchoring, the news anchors have more or less, they are more or less becoming extinct by the day. So I will be the producer behind the news story, writing the script and everything. And by then, the scripts have been written by AI. But I'll be the human being feeding the script into the AI, and I'll get rid of Sami Otieno and Winnie Maganga.
Do you know what AI does?
Yes.
AI simply gathers information that is available. It does it in a much faster time, and it packages it for you in a consumable manner depending on what it is that you want. And it does that quickly. All right?
Yes.
So let me just put it to you this way.
Right.
With every new age, we've had a situation where the likelihood of human beings being replaced completely has been the story.
Okay.
Movies have been made about this. Okay? Well, let's see how this one works out. I
guess we'll see.
I
guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, there is an article that I was reading just the other day about Bill Gates, who was warning governments. He was urging governments and industries to reskill their workers, reform education, and invest in roles that AI can't easily replace. Actually, some of these he was talking about the healthcare jobs. Yeah, where of course human empathy is required. A personal interaction is required. Or he also talked about the issue of creativity, like writing, design, artwork. Those are some of the areas, professions that he felt like this AI thing is not going to affect in large scale.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, what is going to happen is everyone needs to reskill. In every sector, in every profession, in every career, because if you do not reskill, and this is not just because of AI, just because of other emerging technologies and also addition of other aspects in every other development of, career development. So eventually you will need to, what to PR nowadays, the way PR is being done is not the way it was done 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Madaktari also, the way they treat patients and diagnose diseases is not the same way it was done 30, 40 years ago. So everyone has got to reskill at one point. All right. So
the other day, the other day we were celebrating about is the World Rangers Day.
World who?
Rangers.
World Rangers Day.
Ranger.
Yes.
Ranger ni akina nani?
Si wale wanachunga
wanyama
wapori kule na
like
wardens,
wardens. Yes. Today is the day.
Today is their day.
Yes.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
They do a good job. They should be recognized.
Yeah.
And perhaps we should highlight what it is that they're doing to a great extent. Maybe we should look for somebody who works in the wildlife service one of these days to come and talk to us about what it is they do and the challenges that they face.
Yeah. We always think when we go to the orphanages and the parks, we just see them holding guns and we're like, oh, so this is the only thing they do, gun parks. But I believe they do so much more in terms of conservation of wildlife.
And also,
there's a lot, yeah.
And we can also ask them how AI is going to replace them.
Hao kidogo hawatakuwa replaced.
No, they can. Where? They can.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. Have you not seen some animals fixed with some those devices that they can be tracked?
Yeah.
Mnyama hawezi kutoka hata kwa park.
No, that is being done by zoologists who track animals, animal migration, for example, their sleeping patterns, their hunting patterns, and so on and so forth. That is just for tracking purposes. But in terms of replacing that security guard, or rather that KWS warden who has that gun to guard against poachers and other conservation efforts, kidogo itakuwa ngumu.
It is possible. This one is possible.
Where is the train taking us today, though?
Well, today we're going to this one person ambaye anasema kwamba once you choose hope, anything is possible. Anaitwa Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve said, once you choose hope, anything is possible.
Christopher Reeves was an actor.
Yes.
He passed on a couple of years ago.
He played 2004 somewhere there.
Yeah, he played the role of Superman. I don't know if you're aware of this character called Superman.
You do know that I actually live on this planet.
I know. No, the reason I'm asking is it's because I don't like assuming people know things. Yeah, I don't like assuming that you know. Okay, do you know of a guy called Sentry?
Sentry?
Yeah.
What did he invent?
He didn't invent anything.
Why?
He's also a comic book character.
Okay, do you know Spider-Man?
I know Spider-Man.
I do also.
Peter Parker.
Yes.
So Christopher Reeves played a character called Superman, and by the time he was dying, he had a spinal injury because he fell off his horse sometime in the early 2000s.
Yes, they were acting. Yeah.
No, he wasn't acting.
He wasn't acting.
No, he was at his ranch.
Yeah, he was just riding his
fell
horse.
off his horse
And broke his spine.
That's it.
Hey, anything can happen in this world anyway.
Yeah, so what did he say again? Just remind us.
This is what he said. We go back. It's about hope, Yeah. Mbona imenipotelea tena?
Yeah, I think it was
anything is possible.
If you have
if
hope.
you choose hope.
Yes, anything is possible.
Yeah. True. I totally agree. Even not being replaced by AI.
Everything is possible. Bora uko na hope.
Yeah. If you choose hope. So our news anchors, anything is possible if you choose hope. I'll see you.
Well, basically just across like individuals, nations, the world entirely. Anything is just possible if you have that hope in you. If you still you're optimistic, you trust that maybe it is a situation is gonna get better. So every other thing will be possible.
True. City, anything you'd like to add before we get into rgk.co.ke?
No, just welcome to the 21st century, the information age.
Yeah.
Yes.
Karibu tena sana. Welcome also to our website. We like looking at the top stories that are making headlines in the last couple of hours before we get into the newspaper review. So kindly join us by logging on to rgk.co.ke, where not only will you get to see the top stories, but you'll get to see our very beautiful and handsome faces. So why don't you check us out as we take you through basically this amazing morning. China flagged as key source of tobacco imports as Kenya imposes ban. Let's check out what this story is all about. It was actually published 7 minutes ago by our very own Tanya Wanjiko. So the government has banned the importation of tobacco products into Kenya, naming China as a key source as part of a broader effort to curb growing tobacco use among young people and address public health concerns. Appearing before the National Assembly Committee on Delegated Legislation on Wednesday, Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale revealed that imported tobacco continues to penetrate the local market despite existing laws. Okay, so you can check the entire story there, but just to touch on it, China wamekuwa on the spotlight for this particular issue because I think because of the other tobacco products that people like chewing, putting underneath their tongue. I think a lot of people know it as kunele huo inatoka India, kuber. That's also a tobacco product. But now China has made a specific pouch that has got tobacco and nicotine inside it. So when you put it in your mouth, wherever you choose, could be underneath your tongue, could be on your cheek, could be inside under your lower lip or upper lip or whatever. But the point is, those products are so many in the market right now, and they're easily accessible not only by adults but also by the young population. People who are below 18.
What's the problem here?
Yeah. So again, it just wants to regulate the importation of this particular product.
So wait, it's the importation they're concerned about, not the harmful effects of the product.
I think it's from if the health cabinet secretary has to be involved, I think it's the health effects.
Why haven't
this.
they highlighted that and spoken of the harmful effects and stated them so that one understands what it is that they're raising a fuss about? Because you don't need to import these products from China for them to be in Kenya.
Yeah. I mean, if you read the entire story, because it's a very long story, but if you read it, there's a part here that says what's even more worrying, now this is according to the CS, what's even more worrying is the growing vulnerability of our youth who are being lured into addiction through cheap, accessible products. We must act decisively.
That's not new. He's not telling us anything that is new. If it has come to his desk today and is considered it alarming, it's been alarming for quite some time.
Yes.
In case you didn't know. Okay?
True.
So now that it's being highlighted, they are highlighting what exactly? That young people are being lured into addiction.
Yes.
Why is it easy for young people to be lured into addiction?
Because number one, it is very cheap
Availability.
and very accessible. You can literally walk to many wines and spirits outlets and get these products.
My point is, why has it become an issue? Or has it actually now become an issue? Or has it been an issue and we have not bothered to understand why it became an issue? Because we are now dealing with the outcome. The addiction that he's talking about is a consequence.
There's actually a time the government, not just this KK government, I think wakati wa Uhuru, when they were banning shisha, they banned shisha. They also banned the, what are they called, the vapes, the sticks that people like walking around with in their pocket and they just choma, smoke it, take it back, the pipes. And I remember that time it was actually a very big deal. Medical professionals came out and said that it has a higher chance of causing cancer than even a normal lit cigarette. Well,
I think this is a responsibility also to the to NACADA, because they have been out fighting the issue against drug abuse, addiction, and it's not only the tobacco issue. Like you saw yesterday, everywhere news about the banning of alcohol.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. It's actually on the front page of a couple of papers.
I think it is about now the fight against drug abuse and drug addiction. I think that is wameamua.
If the focus is the fight against addiction, that fight has been lost. Yes.
Why?
If it's against addiction,
it has been lost. If it is against misuse of alcohol and tobacco product, that fight has been lost.
Why so? I believe we should, regardless of
the framing of it is misplaced.
Okay.
Why is it that young people are choosing to follow that route? The why question has to be answered
first.
Yes, because when you understand the why, then you'll know what it is you're dealing with. We are looking at the outcome, and that's the focus. Watoto wanalewa. Yes, that's what we are seeing. What is driving them towards that? That is the issue that we should be focusing on.
I think the same approach they've been using years and years. Ndio bado wamekuja nayo. And that is why he's saying that the fight is
it's lost. If that is the focus, it's lost.
Let me call them kids. Why I think kids are into this now. The kids, of course, people who are below 18. The reason why they're into this is because I would say curiosity. When I was at that age, I remember my peers would engage in smoking cigarettes because of pure curiosity, because we saw our elder brothers and parents perhaps indulging in this. So whenever your dad leaves that whiskey kwa kabati, you sneak in, take a shot or two, because like that's the only reason, curiosity. Naonanga dadi akikunywa kitu and then he comes home looking woozy. I just want to experience this. So I think that's the number one reason. There could be other reasons, of course. I'm sure when you talk to individual kids, they might tell you that the reason we're doing this is because we're gonna stress.
All right.
Yeah.
Something which is of equal importance and is talked about greatly is teen pregnancy.
Right.
Okay. The young girls don't impregnate themselves.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is a consequence, the pregnancy.
All right.
How free are we as a society to discuss matters of sexual health? Actually talk about it so that it is understood, because a lot of these pregnancies arise out of ignorance. Because if somebody understood,
yes,
one could have sex and not become pregnant.
Yeah.
I think for girls, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think for girls, their mothers usually engage them early enough. Especially when they start their periods, their mothers usually now tell them, now, this is what it means when you're bleeding, I'm sure.
And do you think that is enough?
Now, now the other part is for us boys. Unfortunately, I don't remember anyone, from my dad to uncles to big brothers, no one sat me down and told me, now look, you can actually get a woman pregnant. I knew I could because I saw it. I saw it on TV, and of course I know that's how mother and father, that's why they come together. But no one literally sat me down and told me anything to do with responsible sexual behavior.
I think for the longest time in our community, in the society, of course, parents do talk to their daughters.
Yeah.
Yes, when they get to puberty stage, most of the time we have been talked to, like, if you go engaging yourself in this and this, this is the outcome. And again, I think also the government also have been in the forefront also in the fight against teenage pregnancies, and especially I'm from Mombasa, the Kilifi County, Kwale County. Those are some of the counties that were leading in terms of teenage pregnancies, and there has been a lot of transformation so far. And
I agree, but those counties also lead in childhood marriages.
Of course, yes, they do.
True. True.
They do, but when you look at there are factors, so many factors which lead to these issues that we are talking about, and especially poverty, the poverty levels, the lack of education, education uptake. So right now, as you look at the coast region,
yes,
we have so many young girls in school. Initially ilikuwa ni kuna age ukifika, you are ready for marriage, you umetoka waenda ukafanya kazi kule Gulf. You get, but right now the uptake of education, I think it's quite different, and this is also helping in the fight against teenage pregnancies. And not only teenage pregnancies, you realize some of these, for you to get involved in those sexual activities at a young age, you get, there are also other issues you are engaging yourself in, and especially the issues of also drugs. You get, so there are so many things that revolve around some of these issues that we are really tackling. Issues of drugs, issues of teenage pregnancies, zinazungukana pale hivi. So issues, tukiaddress issues of poverty, and fighting poverty also is not a one-day thing.
But it is something that can be done.
Yes, it can
be done.
Yes.
It's a fight that can be won.
True.
Because
but have we lost it already? Because the one
the fight against poverty we haven't lost because we haven't actually fought poverty. We talk about fighting it.
Yeah.
If we actually fought it, we would win that fight. Because all these counties that you're speaking of have resources. When you talk about poverty, it is because the efforts that are required to get people out of that poverty have not been made.
Right.
That is why it is the way it is. Yes.
So there's another story here. Government is seeking to repatriate over 1,000 Kenyans facing execution abroad. Yeah.
That is a sign of a misleading headline. When you yes, it is a very misleading headline.
Why?
Let me just
when you read that story, you what you will find is not what that headline is telling you.
All right, let me just read whatever paragraph or two. So Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says the government is working tirelessly to repatriate more than 1,000 Kenyans currently incarcerated abroad. While acknowledging the complexity of many of these cases, Mudavadi assured the public that the government remains fully committed to pursue all possible diplomatic avenues to bring them home. Last paragraph, Mudavadi made the remarks after officially meeting Stephen Munyaku, who recently returned to Kenya after he was saved from execution in Saudi Arabia rather. So Munyaku thanked Kenyans and President Ruto for their role in securing his release. So this is from Citizen Digital, and they have quoted the CS as saying, "We have about 1,000 Kenyans facing incarceration in different countries, and our embassies and missions continue to work through diplomatic channels every other day to try and get the best outcome. Sometimes we may succeed, sometimes we may not succeed."
Execution of wapi hapo? Incarcerated means you're in jail.
Yeah. Okay. So tunasema ya kwamba hapo tulikuwa misled to thinking that 1,000 people are waiting the hangman's noose.
This is one of the reasons why you find us taking a bashing from the public when they say that we in the media often mislead them.
Okay.
The headline, you execution, Kwani, all these Kenyans, what have they done to await execution? It was one individual. He was in Saudi. There are laws. If you kill somebody, they kill you. It's how it works. Okay? This gentleman is lucky that his mother was somebody who was in the media for a very long time. And she understood. 14 years this battle was fought. 14. That's a long time.
A long time, yes.
Tirelessly. She fought it.
Day and night.
Yes, went into media houses to highlight this thing, brought in religious leaders. Every angle she could use. It was publicized, the media fraternity. The media fraternity is very good at this, coming together to ensure that such support is given.
Yeah.
So everybody knew about it. So this is a good win. And the government played an extremely important role. Ministry of Foreign Affairs played a very important role in ensuring that all these efforts were collated together, and this is the outcome.
I think there's a lady called Jerry, if I'm not wrong, who is it Malaysia or Vietnam?
The one for drugs.
Yeah. There's a lady also awaiting. I don't know if she's already been executed or she's awaiting.
Not yet.
Yeah. So that's also another situation that
those cases one hears of from time to time. Those Southeast Asian countries, if they are caught with drugs, heck, you're dying. They'll kill you. Yes,
that's how serious they are fighting drugs.
They do not joke with it. Drugs, they do not. Now you see, you may call it bizarre, you may call it barbaric, but they take the issue of drugs seriously and they deal with it seriously. So if you want to trade in drugs, you go ahead. The day we catch you,
it's over.
You're going to die. That way, we ensure that it doesn't. You don't do this thing again. That's how they approach it. Like in China, anything that is considered a crime against humanity, they shoot you.
China.
And you are done.
They will kill you.
An example. An example of a crime that will have you shot.
If, say, for instance, you defraud a company from business, or you're given a government contract and you don't do it, it means you're given money and you don't perform what you're supposed to, and you're found guilty. Consider yourself dead.
So they shoot you, they don't hang you, they don't behead, they shoot.
The thing is, they'll kill you. Okay. You're dead.
It doesn't matter how they do it.
And I think because of this
firing squad, that is me dramatizing it, but you will die. The penalty is not life imprisonment, it is death. Because the thinking is, this crime deprives very many people of some benefit. So it's a crime against all these people. You, away with you.
Yes.
And I think, Mung'ala, that is the reason why issues of corruption in those countries are quite minimal.
Or they are low.
Yeah, they are quite minimal compared.
The consequences
dire.
Where? Look at South Korea. Those people are notorious for jailing their presidents.
I remember that the last president they jailed is that lady who came to Kenya.
Yes.
And then they...
She was a president.
Yeah. When she went back to South Korea, she literally found watu wako ready kwenda maandamano. And about over 1 million people went to the streets of Seoul. She had to step down. I think she stepped down 2 or 3 days later. And after that, straight after akenda kotini, guilty, done.
Upper Africa?
My people are being attacked.
There is no evidence to prove that what they say. This is what happens when people are against development. They
are attacking us.
Literally, someone will go back to their village and say in their mother tongue, unaona venye wanatufanyia,
we are in danger.
Na sisi tunafanywa, ni wewe unafanyiwa. Ni wewe uliba pesa, ni wewe unafuatwa na DCI.
And actually that money is benefiting you and your family alone. Yes. We are not involved.
But now it has become a we problem when you're arrested.
So I think we are quite far in terms of fighting the issues of corruption.
The day in a country like Kenya executes someone, or even if forget execution, but jails you for life. No, but on a serious note, I mean, we have the law, so you can be executed. The day we'll execute someone, utaona watu wakiacha kuiba.
You know, this matter of execution is something we should talk about. Not now, but let's make it a topic that we look at the death penalty.
Yeah.
And why it is that some people have it and others don't.
And others can't.
Let's get into the traffic so that we can get back to our newspaper review, eh?
Traffic.
Alright, so I'm looking at Ngong Road right now. You guys are doing good actually, considering it's only 30 minutes past 6 o'clock. 29 to the top of the hour. Adam's a kid all the way to Haile Selassie. Things are looking good for you guys. Mombasa Road, my favorite road, which I use on a daily. Mko sawa sawa. Nikiangalia watu ambao wanatoka Kitengela, watu ambao wanatoka Athi River, mko sawa, hakuna complaints zozote. So whichever direction you're going, whether you're coming from town, going to town, you guys are looking fantastico. Patricia, what's on your end?
I'm looking at Thika Road. Hii area iko na traffic ni kuanzia pale Mathare Teaching and Referral Hospital. Kuanzia that area all the way through Pangani, kuna a lot of traffic. Ukifika Ngara, I'm not seeing traffic there. Jogoo Road, of course, that's same spot we've been talking about this week because of the renovation. That is around Makadara, Potela. That is where we are seeing a little bit of traffic, but as you head towards town, slow but moving. Other places, you've talked of Ngong Road. When I look at Expressway, Nairobi Expressway, quite okay, except pale Nyayo, but it's just a slow down there. Mombasa, things quite okay. Pale Lights Kengeleni, everything is quite okay so far.
Alright, so that's your update as of now, but if anything changes, we'll definitely let you know.
Traffic on Radio Generation.
Haya, acha tuanze na magazeti tuangalie what's happening on that particular end, what's making headlines this particular morning. I'm looking at the Star, and this is what it says on the front page. Alcohol ban plan to strike traders' jobs hard. This story is on page 2. Yesterday, there was a huge buzz on social media where people were alleging that NACADA has banned the sale of alcohol from so many places. However, NACADA came out and said that it is just a proposal. Poleni sana. It is just a proposal, and some of the places that they have proposed should be banned in terms of selling and use of alcohol are the following, yeah? Supermarkets.
Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. Supermarkets, home deliveries and couriers, residential premises and areas. So amtakuwa mnauza pombe huko kwa estate if this goes through. Online sale of alcohol. So all your .co.ke places where you have deliveries, hiyo imeenda wakikubaliana na hii.
Yes.
Restaurants. So you can't walk into your favorite restaurant and buy alcohol. Basic education, tertiary and higher learning institutions. My people from Kenyatta University, there's a place called Student Center where people used to enjoy themselves thoroughly. If this goes through, musahau pombe huko university. Public beaches, public parks, amusement parks, recreation facilities, medical facilities and sports facilities, bus parks, bus stops, petrol stations, hata hii. Watu wanaenda Mombasa watakuwa wananunua wapi hizi vitu? Public transport, so that means in trains, SGR hiyo imeenda, railway stations and the ferry, outlets selling children related products, that's okay, hawking, and then lastly vending machines. City, umesikia?
Okay, let me ask a simple question.
Sure.
What are they curing?
What are they curing?
Yes.
Accessibility of this alcohol, and by extension the addiction and perhaps the occasional drinking. Mnanunua mnaenda mnakana au mnaanza kunywa kwa magari zenu.
So let's say that this thing goes through and you can't access alcohol in all these places. Are we saying that alcohol now will become inaccessible?
Yeah, because if you can't buy it at a supermarket, you can't buy it at in the the ferry, the train, inside the train, because SGR walikuwa wanauza ama wanauzanga.
So will there be places where you can buy it?
I guess at this rate, they should tell us the only place you can buy alcohol is probably at the club. Period. Full stop.
And I think the issue here, they're looking at accessibility of alcohol, and especially to the young people, especially the young school-going children. The other day you gave me an example. You said that you visited some supermarket.
Yes.
Then kuna kona pale ya alcohol, spirits and the rest.
There's a place
so you
they
see
have
a child, unaona mwanafunzi hata still in uniform. You're making rounds in that shop.
The problem is not the shop.
Yes.
The problem is whether it is the people who conduct that business understand that there is a law against selling alcohol and cigarettes to underage children.
Now, I agree with you, because at that establishment I was talking about, at the door, there's a very big sign, the size of that clock. Imeandikwa vizuri, no entry to people to persons under the age of 18.
Yes.
Yeah. So, number one, they have done their they have made sure that they have told you that if you're under 18 you can't get in here. Now, two, I would fault the people manning that particular wines and spirits. because they're the ones who are supposed to enforce that rule
Yes.
or that law. Yeah.
What about these ones we buy online?
Now,
Somebody will just come online
Yes.
and say that they are over 18.
again, I will fault the person delivering the alcohol.
Yes.
There's no way, Patricia, your son, who's probably 10 years old, will get online because they can and order for the a whiskey, and then it's delivered, and then mwenye anakuletea hiyo pombe ni mtu mzima, anaona vizuri sana, anapatia mtoto alcohol aje. If I was the one delivering, I'd be like, no, where's your mother or your father? Can they come here? They're the ones I'm supposed to give this.
Do you see now the objective of the seller is not the same objective as you?
Actually, the problem is deeper than that. It is our disregard for the rule of law.
Period.
We talk about politicians, we point fingers at them. We ourselves, the abuse of these services that we have tells you how we interact and how we relate to the law. It's a suggestion. It's not something that you think should be enforced.
Yes.
If it's going to benefit you, no matter how short the benefit, as far as you're concerned, that is a convenience or an inconvenience you can do away with. It's like when you ask the question, when you come to a traffic stop or the traffic light, why do the police always allow motorbikes to just go wherever it is they want to go as they see fit?
Sometimes even when they're riding on the wrong side of the road.
Yes,
Yeah.
or even on the pavement. And the policemen are there watching. So these things tell us exactly what sort of people
What we
we
have.
are
Yes.
as Kenyans. So even when we talk about wanting to change things, when I talk about the fight being lost, I'm not being negative. I'm just telling you the truth as I see it. Because we always avoid looking at what it is we are dealing with. We always focus on the symptoms. Always. You can't be drunk if you don't drink. And you can't drink if you can't access the alcohol. And you can't access the alcohol unless someone sells it to you.
True.
So where do you start? With the drunkard person, or do you go back and ask, what is it about the enforcement of our laws that we are missing out?
Actually, I agree, because even if you restrict it to a club, I assure you,
People will say why?
if these kids want to access this alcohol,
They'll access it.
they will. The same way they've been accessing it in the supermarkets and online or wherever, they will innovate ways of accessing that alcohol. So if they really want it, they will get it.
Yes, and I think apart from the disregarding of the law, the rule of law, I think there's also something we are lacking as a society. This morality, we are also lacking the issue of we no longer care about our children. Yeah, if I meet your son right now, your son is only 15 years, and they are able to send me, I buy them the alcohol myself because I'm an adult. So I go buy, kwa sababu kijana amekuja hapa kona pesa amenipatia. Naambia bana, unajua siwezi fika kule. We nibaie. And there are people who are doing that. And actually many people are
you
doing
actually
that.
think that is strange. Once upon a time, in the previous century,
Yeah.
I was a head teacher. I encountered, not once, something very bizarre. A student sent home to bring the parent. Somebody who looks like a parent comes.
Yeah.
And and we're having this conversation. Wajua mtoto wangu nitamwambia ABCD. I was a head teacher.
Yes.
And then my secretary comes in and tells me the boy's father has come. So I said, oh, this is good. The mother is here, the father has come. So I said, madam, it's very good. Sasa babake mtoto pia amekuja. The next thing, this lady leaves my office in a rush and takes off, literally,
Yeah.
in her buibui, takes off. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, what am I seeing here? That young man
Eh.
had paid this person to come and
Represent.
yes. Unfortunately for him, the father actually came. I've heard many similar stories. So what I'm trying to say is, when you have people in authority and leadership disregarding the law, they do not clearly understand the ramifications of the examples they are setting.
True.
You then tell other people that it is possible for you to disregard the law. If the law does not apply to you because you're in authority, then I, who is not in authority, will figure, oh, so I need to work so that I get to authority so that I can also disregard the law like this person. Believe me, now imagine the children who live within our homes, what they see. They see. You bribe a policeman, the child sees. Next time they'll tell you, Daddy, why don't you just give him 300 bob? That child has internalized bribery and it's become the norm for them. And it is you who has set the example.
Yeah.
So where do you think that attitude is going to go with regards to how that child responds and interacts with the rule of law.
We even have what we call cool uncles and cool aunties during events, Christmas, Easter, whatever. Hao ndio wanapatianga watoto pombe.
True.
Ndio, you know,
ndio maana anakuwa cool, eh?
Unaona mtoto amekaribia aunti yake sana ama amekaribia uncle yake sana, you're thinking, this is a nice family bond. Hapana, aunti anampatianga kakitu hapo chini ya meza, amba, you know, behind the seat. So it happens, unfortunately, and like we said in the previous story, when heads start rolling, when people start going to prison like properly, umeshikwa, umepetea mtoto pombe, umeuzia mtoto pombe, my friend, fungwa na ufungwe vizuri. Utaona wines and spirits zikiacha kuzia watoto pombe. Yeah. All right.
Nakumbuka mtutho.
Yeah. Hiyo ilienda preview. Watu walikuwa wanajifungia kwa bar ndani wanakunywa. Yeah. Sorry you cannot recall your MPs just yet. IEBC dashes hopes of voters. Yeah. You can read that story on the Star page 7. All right, City, what's on your end of the paper?
The story that I want to look at, and I actually got this paper specifically because the headline touches on something that I had read. This is the Nairobian. Shock of hospital murders and cover-up. On the headline of this particular paper,
right,
is the story of a lady called Susan Njoki Kamengere. Okay,
I think I remember that name.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
this lady is a celebrated children's wellness advocate and a mental health champion, and founder of Total Touch. Okay, this 48-year-old, apparently, people went to her home. Apparently, she was unwell, started injecting her with things which she said she was allergic to. In the end, she died. Yeah. She was admitted to a hospital. And that particular hospital, that branch, has since been shut down.
Yes.
I personally think it was unnecessarily harsh. Because
to shut down the hospital?
Yes, it was harsh.
Why?
They should focus on the people who went there and those who did whatever they did, because she didn't go there on her own. I'm saying this because Kenyatta National Hospital has had 2 deaths.
True.
It has not been shut down. So what is the standard that we're using?
To shut that other one down.
Exactly. I'm simply saying there's something about our country and the way we are going about things. You spoke of morality. My friend, we have a crisis here. That's where the crisis is. Because the disregard for human life, you're talking about young people being shot. You're talking about people dying in prison cells. People are now dying in hospitals. And not because they were unwell and they died because the treatment didn't work, but because somebody has killed them within a sanctuary that you thought was safe. Now, if you're talking about the health of a nation and where we are at, these stories point to where we are at. That's why I chose this particular story.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, again, I remember that story when we read it. There was even an audio that Susan had released before she died, where she was totally okay, she was totally fine. But I think this story is also very deep, and it has a lot of, do I call it entanglements?
There are many nuances to it.
Exactly.
It's not, there are very many things about this story that is yet to be told.
It's not a straightforward story.
No.
So again, going back to the fact that the hospital has been closed, perhaps I would ask myself what led, like what I would want to ask the detectives and the authorities that decided it should be closed, what led to it being closed, because I think it has also got something to do with either the owner or the person who was in charge of that particular branch.
The issue is, why have they not told us what the standard is for shutting down a hospital, so that we know that according to the rules that are laid down and understood by whether it's KMPDC or whoever it is, that when you do A, B, C, D, remember they have these purges where you find certain pharmacies have been shut down, some clinics have been shut down, and they explain to you why those things are done. But it raises the question, if you're shutting them down, what about the supervision to ensure that the licenses that are issued to people who actually understand what they should do?
Allow me to play devil's advocate in this particular story. What would be the ramifications of shutting down KNH as opposed to this hospital that I think was in Westlands? What like if you shut down KNH today, the thousands of patients who are currently there, the thousands of others who probably come there for dialysis and chemotherapy and all the other diseases that come to be treated there, I think it would have a really serious effect as opposed to shutting down this other, let me call it, clinic.
All right. Since you've opened that Pandora's box, let me open it even wider. There was a land row in Nakuru County over War Memorial Hospital. Patients who were in hospital, some on drips, thugs wielding weapons, escorted by policemen, were removing patients from they were in hospital. The row was about the land which somebody wanted, War Memorial in Nakuru. Okay?
Yes.
This is a hospital. When you call it War Memorial, that thing is old.
Yeah.
Okay? Serves people. Those were individuals who had gone to hospital to seek treatment. That's what happened to them. The consequence of the police officer who led that raid and whoever was responsible, the governor and all the people who are in charge of it, the CEC in charge of health and what have you, has anything happened to them? Nada. That story, you don't even hear of it. It's gone. The hospital that was shut down as a result of Susan's case also had Kenyans who were patients in that hospital. It's not the numbers. It is the lives. It's not 10 lives or 1,000 lives. Start with one.
Yeah.
They also had a right to be treated and to be taken care of.
I would like to imagine they were probably taken to a different facility. I would like to imagine.
And I want to look at that facility. I don't know how many days it took for it to be closed, to be shut down.
About a week.
It was about a week.
Yeah. It was a speed dial.
Then when you look at Kenyatta National Hospital, like the first death, people did not understand what happened, right? So this second one, I think they went on speed to ensure that they've brought somebody, to be alleged to be the one who has caused those deaths, so that now to shut these other stories, like people najua tungekuwa saa yote tuko, we are in a dilemma. We don't understand what is happening.
You think that suspect was a fake suspect?
I think personally I think still there's something that we are not being told about the deaths in Kenyatta Hospital. That is me, according to me.
All right.
Yeah, and that is why now they cannot be told to shut down, because at least they can point out to somebody they suspect. They have a suspect.
And I thought War Memorial Hospital usually has the army guarding the gates, CT, because the War Memorial on Mbagathi has got, armed.
This is not the one we have in Nairobi.
No. You're talking about the one in Nakuru.
Yes.
But I'm saying I imagined that the one in Nakuru has got similar security.
No. The one in Mbagathi is a military hospital.
Okay.
The one in Nakuru is actually a private hospital.
Oh, it's just called War Memorial.
Yes, it is.
It's private.
It was set up a long time ago during colonial times.
I actually thought
it even has an independent board.
I thought it was a branch of the one in Nairobi.
No. The problem with that hospital is the land it occupies. Somebody wanted that land.
And so it doesn't matter how many soldiers you would put at the gate, by the way.
No,
issues to do with land.
Kenya Army pale.
No, I'm telling you.
Utafika tu gate, you'll just continue driving.
Yes.
Kenya Army weke pale kwa gate. Jaribu kwenda hapa Mbagathi uone.
Not this one. I don't. We are talking of the issue of land. In Kenya, issues to do with land.
Anyway, that's a proper one. What's on your end, Patricia?
Well, I'm looking at the Daily Nation. The biggest story, of course, is the issue of alcohol. That one we've tackled. So there's this one about officials barred from government contracts. You can look at that. That is on war on graft. This is what the newspaper says, that a president signs into law conflict of interest bill, which blocks public officers from bagging tenders floated by the state agencies under their watch to curb graft, on page 6 of the daily newspaper. Conflict of interest.
Yeah.
This, of course, has been a thorn in our flesh as a country in terms of fighting graft, because you realize there is a tender that has been floated by the government, but you realize the people who are doing this same tender, they're the same people who are working in the government. Yeah, the
ones who've been awarded the tender.
Yes. The people who end up doing these tenders are people working in the actually a majority of them. Itakuwa ni pengine it's a kinu, maybe it's a relative. Menda nimefungua kampuni na jina ya CT, ameoa sijui dada yangu. Then yenda anafanya ile tender. So personally, I feel it is a good step. The banning of that issue of giving tenders to government officials. You're working in the government,
so you shouldn't get a tender.
Personally, I would support that, because the issue to fighting corruption and graft in such, you will never fight if you do not have such laws.
I thought that thing was actually there. Now that it's been... Anyway, the point here is they will always find a way.
It is historical, by the way, and it was made possible by a commission that was set up. These commissions are not new. It's called the Ndegwa Commission.
Yes.
There's a clause within the Ndegwa Commission which then opened this door to allow civil servants to actually be involved in doing business with government.
The government.
That's where the Pandora's box, this particular one, ilifunguliwa. Yes.
So right now, okay, I think they have come to realize that it has been hurting the nation a big time.
It has been hurting the nation for such a long time. There are those who call it crony capitalism, meaning I'm in a position of power, you're my friend, I give you work. You're my relative, I give you work. The problem with our crony capitalism, the people given work, many of them don't even do the work. And yet they're paid. See, shit and your apple. Money has been expended, but there's no corresponding project that you can tie that particular money to. And these are things that the Auditor General speaks of very regularly. Yes.
That is what is hurting our country.
But you see, this is talk. What are the steps that are being taken to ensure that what they're saying is abhorrent is actually done away with?
Now, the funny thing is, no matter how much they tighten the laws, I remember there's someone who sat here again. I like referring to these folks that we host here. And they said Kenya already has got enough laws. We keep on coming up with new ones for nothing. Zile ziko tu sawa. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because, fine, we will stop civil servants from conducting business with government. But what they will do, they will always find a way to circumnavigate or rather just go behind or over it. How? It is happening to date. Whereby you even find someone random. A friend mulina naye shule for standard 1. Unamuita unamwambia fanya hivi, kuna hii tender. Apply. That make sure imepita. My cut is this, your cut is this. And of course, me as a person who's introduced you to this particular tender, I'm getting the lion's share. You're just a proxy, by the way. And that's the truth. People have taken their sisters, brothers, sister, auntie, ya cousin, ya baba, ya auntie, ya mama yake. Anakuja kuchukua hiyo tender. Yeah. So you look for a distant relative mwenye hata wakitafuta, by the time they realize this is your mother's cousin, they rather your wife's mother's cousin, it will take forever. And it is happening, and we know it is happening. So the thing here is, the day heads start rolling, the day people go to prison, or like we said earlier on, the day people get executed.
No, we don't have the death penalty in the country.
But we have a death penalty. People are sentenced to death on a daily basis here.
No, in Kenya
we don't.
Kenya we don't.
But it is there in the law. It's just that it is never whatever. See, Joey was sentenced to death. Was it Joey or who? Joy, I think Joy, the guy who was found guilty of killing that lady who called Kilimani.
But I think in Kenya, yes, you are sentenced to that, but you stay
executed in this country?
I think the last time execution happened was in 1982.
And that is when now it stopped.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is the law is there. It's just that it has not been, implemented. People are sentenced daily. There are very many people in Kamiti and Kodiaga prison and Shimolatewa who are on death row. Yeah, but they have wanajuanga tu a couple for life. But I'm saying that the day someone who's been caught in grand corruption, na kamatwe na tunajua huyu mtu alikuwa kwa Anglo-Leasing ama kwa Goldenberg scandal, na huyo mtu anyongwe, mutaacha kuiba.
So again, what CT talked about the Degwa report, so umesikia kisema kwamba that Pandora box was opened, so people can just mtu anafanya biashara rightly. You get, now the problem is, now after this that ban has been effected, that is when now we can be able to hold people accountable.
Actually, that won't happen. That horse left the stable and bolted and is running away. We have warned the government of corruption in this country, and it's part and parcel of our DNA now. You ban it, it's a government contract. There are government employees who superintend it. All you'll have done is moved the business to another quarter. It's like when they say that they've increased fines for speeding. What you've done, toll charges are the ones which have gone up.
Yeah.
But you actually think that suddenly the law is going to be obeyed. We have gotten to a point where the reality is we look for ways of disregarding the law. The law is an inconvenience, and when a policeman presents themselves, they're presenting you with an inconvenience and asking you to find a way of negotiating your way out of the inconvenience. And that's an understanding.
It's actually very
It's true. Yeah.
It's actually very true, because and even if you make, even if you take the fines up to even to 10,000, 20,000, and 100,000, what you've just done is increased the bribe that I have to pay, but the bribe will be paid. Yeah. So if I was paying 500 shillings before, now a cop asks for 5Gs. Nitatoa your 5Gs because I'm not gonna go to court and give you 100,000. Am I mad? You understand? That's the mentality on the ground. So you take the fines up to even 1 million.
It's all right.
Yeah, now my bribe has come from 5,000. Now my bribe is 50,000.
So
it's as simple as that.
Okay, so now the question is, sometimes is the government really honest when it puts on some of these regulations? Is it just honestly that, like,
no, the regulations are good.
Yeah, okay, yeah, they are good, but most of the time, like, look at the case of whereby we have police officers whereby they are supposed to ensure that there's no overspeeding. Then you raise the penalties, sawa, so that mtu akifika pale unamwambia okay, unaona ni pesa ngapi yenye unafaa kulipa.
What happens with these things, my dear, is our entire, as I said, relationship with the law. In this country, we know everything is up for negotiation. We know.
Even going to prison.
We know.
You negotiate.
Yes. I can be told I'm going to committee. I don't have to be in committee. I may walk in, and then at night I'll walk out. And somebody else has been paid to my CT present, but it's not me. This is Kenya.
It's happening in our country.
Yes. So when you talk about these things, please understand that stop blaming the policeman who stops you. That policeman answers to somebody above him. That one answers to somebody above him. That one, and it keeps going up.
The reason why Albert was arrested and eventually died is because he exposed something that Kenyans have been knowing for decades. The fact that there is a hierarchy in terms of collection of bribes, and that money goes all the way to vigilance house. Yeah, and perhaps even beyond vigilance. So yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's the truth.
You are given it is spoken of and it is said. You're given a quota. If you want to be a traffic policeman, there's an understanding of what you're going to do. Don't think that unapewa to traffic. There's a way in which you end up there.
Yeah.
It is said. I do not have the evidence to support it, but it is said. And you're told every day you must produce this. So that's why you see them struggling. It's like you need to meet your quota to retain your job.
Yeah. Actually, there sometimes you can tell a policeman is frustrated because ni kama target yake ya siku ijafika. So inafika mali you even start negotiating aleta 50. Mulianzia 1,000 ukamwambia huna, ukamwonyesha mpaka your M-Pesa account, naambia ona boss niko nafuliza, anakuuliza what's your limit, 500 imebaki ngapi hapo, 300 leta toa yote
nipe hiyo,
because he now needs to meet the target.
So then it's quite unfortunate. So it means that tukiweka hizi laws,
no, let's face the truth of what our problem is, then a solution is easy to find. We are constantly talking and dealing with the symptoms and not the problem. So we will, that's why I said hatuendi mahali so long as you're dealing with the symptoms.
Yeah. So we might create new laws, we will find ways around those laws. We might increase the fines, we'll find ways through those around those fines. So the thing is, again, I'll reiterate what our guests have been saying here. We do not have a shortage of laws. We just need to enforce the ones that we already have. Hizo zenye tuko nazo hizo. Watu wende jela wafungwe. Uone watu wakiacha kuiba na wafungwe legitimately.
And by the way, we have the death penalty. We just don't put it into practice. Hatuwi watu, lakini tunaweza kuambia wewe utauawa.
That is why that's why we had this battle for Mr. Munyaku Abdul Karim in Saudi Arabia, and now we are fighting to get that other lady in Jerry from Asia, because those guys don't joke. That's why it's national. That is why it is national news.
Them they do.
Or they kill you.
Yeah. So the day we start doing this, mimi nakwambia CS atakuwa anaingia hivi kwa ofisi, anaanza akiona tu kitu imefanyika kwa ofisi ifai kufanyika, mumenunua kitu ifai
so you're for death sentence, death in our execution in our country
if you're not using it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not planning to kill anyone. Are you planning to kill someone?
No, I'm not. That's what I'm asking. So you are for that?
Yeah. Let's do it, guys.
Well, I think that whole issue is debatable.
We
the issue of death sentence. Death penalty, I think it's something that is debatable.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's get into the news with Winnie Maganga.
Generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
urban soul. Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is Radio Generation. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. The government has banned the importation of tobacco products as part of a broader strategy to combat rising tobacco abuse among young people. Health Cabinet Secretary Eden Duale made the revelation on Wednesday when he appeared before the National Assembly Committee on Delegated Legislation. Duale said the ban is a key intervention by the Ministry of Health aimed at reducing the availability and appeal of tobacco products in local markets. He told the committee that China has been a major source of imported tobacco products.
Tobacco is one of the biggest public health threats in the world today, which we are faced, and it kills close to about 8 million people here globally, including 1.2 million deaths from the exposure to secondhand smoke. So it kills 8 million, but those who sit next to smokers, about 1.2 million die. So it affects both those who consume and those who are around. So I really ask members of parliament and here in parliament that we avoid those who smoke, and that's why you have designated areas. In fact, parliament should have a designated place.
Majority Leader in the National Assembly Kimani Ichung'wah has raised concern that the measures put in place to regulate betting and gambling in the country were not adequate. The Kikuyu MP said the fight against gambling will only be won through an operational act of parliament that will discourage youth from engaging in irresponsible gambling. He adds many youth believe they can get rich through gambling instead of engaging in productive economic activities. He made the remarks on the floor of the House as MPs debated the mediated version of the Gambling Control Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2023.
Many radio stations and TV stations, Honorable Speaker, were free to encourage the public to bet. From as early as 5 a.m., there are radio stations that were running programs encouraging Kenyans to bet and gamble. We have seen young children, college students, commit suicide because of betting. They have gambled their money away, their school fees. Some gamble their subsistence allowance from their parents and from the Higher Education Loans Board, and they end up destitute, slip into depression, and end up, Honorable Speaker, some committing suicide.
A Kibera court will deliver its ruling on September 26, 2025 on whether 6 suspects charged with the murder of Albert Ojwang will be released on bail or bond. Among the accused is former OCS of Central Police Station Samson Talam. His lawyer Danstan Omari urged Justice Diana Kavedza to grant bail on reasonable terms, arguing that the state had provided no concrete reason to deny his client temporary release. Omari presented a letter dated June 7, 2025 from the Nairobi Regional Police Commander confirming that Talam had been interdicted from service, placed on half salary and stripped of all police powers and privileges effective June 9th.
My lady, you have not been supplied with any authority from the Court of Appeal to support the state's connotations. You have not been supplied with any authority from the Supreme Court under the principle of stare decisis. This court is bound by the pronouncements of the Court of Appeal. My lady, the defense has provided this court with the decision Criminal Appeal number 113 of 2018.
The Abiyan Hospital in Isili, Nairobi is under formal investigation by the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Council. This follows the detention of a baby over unpaid bill, an incident the regulator has termed unethical and unacceptable. The council said it had moved swiftly to transfer the child to Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital for continued care as it begins a detailed probe into the conduct of private facility. KMPDC Chief Executive Officer David Kariuki said in a statement that the council, in collaboration with relevant authorities, has launched a thorough investigation into the incident to ensure that those found culpable are held accountable. 7 more people have died from malnutrition in Gaza Strip in the past 24 hours, the Hamas-run health ministry in the Palestinian territory has said. It says the total number of malnutrition deaths since the start of the Israel-Hamas war in 2023 has now reached 154, including 89 children. UN-backed global food security experts warned that the worst-case scenario of famine is currently playing out in Gaza. Israel says it is not imposing restrictions on aid entering Gaza. Those claims are not accepted by its close allies in Europe, the UN and other agencies active in Gaza. That's the Truth on Radio Generation. Good morning. I'm Winnie Maganga.
In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generations, the people's breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The people's breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor!
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights. Radio Generation.
That's right. Welcome back. This is Radio Generation 88.8 in Nairobi, 90.7 in Mombasa, 92.6 in Lamu, and of course Malindi. It's 92.1. A very good morning. In case you're just joining us, this is the People's Breakfast, and I am with CT Muga. We're going to be having a conversation around cancer, and joining us for that particular conversation is none other than Dr. Zara Muhammad Ahmed. She's a radiation oncologist, and also on the other side of the microphone, we do have Dr. Timothy Olweni, Chairperson, National Cancer Institute. So, Daktari, karibuni tena sana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So, let's just start with, you work as an oncologist. You're a radiation oncologist.
Yes.
Is there any difference from just a kawaida radiologist?
Oncologist.
Yeah?
Yes.
I mean, sorry, not kawaida oncologist, but you're a radiation oncologist.
Yes.
Then we have an oncologist.
Yes.
So you're specializing in the radiation part of oncology.
Yes. So we have two major aspects of oncology. We have the medical oncology and clinical oncology. So the medical oncology take care of the medical part of cancer, which is chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and all that. A clinical oncology does both medical and radiation oncologist. So if you have more interest in the radiation oncologist, you will do like maybe more training, see more cases, and deal more with radiation oncologists. But a clinical oncologist can do both medical and radiation oncology.
All right.
Yes.
Interesting. And you're with HCG, Health Care Global.
Yes, currently rotating at the Cancer Care Center. Yes.
Karibu tena sana to Radio
Thank you so
Generation.
much.
All right, Dr. Olweni.
Yes.
Karibu tena sana.
Thank you.
This is Radio Generation. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about National Cancer Institute.
Okay.
Yeah.
National Cancer Institute is a state corporation that came into being by virtue of the passing of the Cancer Prevention and Control Act of 2012. It's a state corporation that was formed after appreciation of the rising burden of cancer and the need for more targeted and specific organization to deal with the cancer burden in Kenya.
All right.
It has got a very wide mandate, and the mandate is mainly to deal with leadership, oversight, coordination, also to arrange, organize collaborative efforts, anything to do with prevention, treatment, and control of cancer. We also give advisory to the Cabinet Secretary of Health on matters cancer. We're supposed to look out for patient welfare. Anything to do with their care, including access to healthcare services,
Right.
in line with the principles of universal health coverage and ethical principles in medical practice as well.
Yeah. I have a question around the funding of this specific terminal illnesses that we have in Kenya. This particular financial year, I don't know if you know how much money has been allocated to the fight of cancer, and just across board all cancers put together.
Well, we have funding. Funding, of course, it comes in different pockets, and the reason I say that is because you've got funding which is given to the National Cancer Institute, of course, to run its operations. You've got funding which goes through social health insurance in terms of paying for the healthcare. You've got funding again that goes to different other institutions in terms of infrastructure, whether it's in terms of personnel and so on, that is specific to taking care of cancer patients. So I can't necessarily give you a number.
Yeah.
But of course, there's funding that is allocated budgetary wise. Again, healthcare is a devolved function, and that devolved function means again counties also significantly contribute in terms of taking care of patients with cancer.
The reason I'm asking this is because I sat here recently with individuals from clinical officers associations, and one thing they raised is the fact that the money that has been located to diseases such as cancer is not enough. Unfortunately, a lot of that money has been directed to outpatient services as opposed to where it actually does matter, and that is on issues to do with cancer, diabetes, and other illnesses, chronic illnesses.
While I do agree that the funding is never sufficient, I think we have to change our approach in terms of how we fund cancer and its management and cancer efforts. I do agree that we don't have enough resources allocated to curative treatment. However, there has to be a shift. We have to go more towards, I call it a leftward shift in terms of funding, in terms of priorities, because primary health care, we have to do screening and early detection, and that's the only way we'll be able to manage cancer, because at the moment we're diagnosing too many cases very late. That, first of all, has got very poor outcomes. It is more expensive. So at the end of the day, what we need to do is deploy further resources. So of course we are going to have a shift, and that's one of the reasons why, for example, the primary healthcare fund of the social health insurance initiative that we have under SHA was supposed to allocate significant resources to primary healthcare, and we integrate cancer care into primary care. So that even as patients walk in, they are being reviewed by clinicians. They are being profiled in terms of what risks they have, and therefore being screened at an appropriate time. That's the only way we can be able to stem the rise in cancer and its impacts in our country.
So
are you saying therefore that the problem isn't really funding, but it's the way we treat matters around cancer, how we think about what we ought to do, the priority that we seem to have towards the curative aspect of the disease as opposed to the preventative aspects of it?
Yes, I've always said that I believe that whatever you incentivize happens. And in our country at the moment, we have allocated too much resources, and when I say resources, I use that in a broader context of infrastructure, personnel,
funding,
training, funding, everything. We have allocated too much towards curative treatment, because that becomes the immediate problem. And to some extent, it's also understandable. When your house is on fire, right, you're going to do everything to put out the fire. You don't have time for long-term planning. But over time, it is important for us to know what caused that fire and how can we prevent that. And sometimes that is cheaper than putting out the fire itself.
I'm going to ask you one more question before we move to Dr. Ahmed here. In terms of our personnel, the ones who specifically actually do handle cancer patients, do we have sufficient personnel, number one, and do we have facilities, our facilities rather, the ones that are available, are they well equipped to handle these particular cancer cases?
Our environment is resource constrained in all those areas, whether in terms of the infrastructure, physical infrastructure, whether it's the personnel, whether it's the level of training, whether it's the amount of money we are allocating.
Level of training?
Yes, even the level of training. And that is also, again, a change in mindset. And I'm saying, and that's why the National Cancer Institute at the moment is concentrating a lot in terms of integrating cancer and aspects to do with cancer in the curricula and having them there so that it is part and parcel, as opposed to these initiatives we have where people say, occasionally it is World Cancer Day, let us go and screen, let us go and have a camp, let us go do this. It has to be part and parcel of the regular care that people get, just like it is for any other medical conditions.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Dr. Zara, welcome once again.
Thank you.
If I can just ask you in terms, because he said in terms of personnel and in terms of in terms of even not the skills, but the training. What are your thoughts on what he has said, and perhaps you can let us know how HCG comes in to either bridge the gap or at least assist in that particular situation?
Okay, so as a country, in terms of personnel, we've come a long way, but still there's a huge gap. Like I was talking to one of the pioneers, oncologists in the country yesterday, and we had our first clinical oncologist in 1985. From then until now, currently we have more than 60 oncologists in the country. Yes, the numbers have improved, but still it's inadequate to tackle the cancer burden. And the second question was how
HCG comes in to assist, clear bridge the gap, or how?
As a private facility, it offers comprehensive cancer care. Comprehensive, I mean, from diagnosis treatment, palliative care, all through to surveillance. And for treatment purposes, we see that currently in the country we have 20 to 22 radiotherapy machines. Radiotherapy is an integral part in cancer treatment.
Right.
And out of all these machines, we have Mombasa, Nakuru, Garissa, KNH, and KU as the only government facilities that have radiotherapy. Yes, we have increased the number of radiation facilities in the country, but still, that's not enough. And I think currently HCG is the only facility that offers a stereotactic type of radiotherapy. You see,
stereo what? Sorry.
stereotactic radiotherapy.
What
so
is that?
yes, radiotherapy is delivery of radiation to kill the cancer cells, and it kills the cancer cells by DNA damage. So modality of deliverance of this radiotherapy is different. So we have a spectrum from the 3D radiation to stereotactic, and in between we have IMAT and image guided radiation. So as more advanced the radiation technique is, the more precise the treatment, meaning that with stereotactic we can deliver high doses of radiation in a shortened period of time with less side effects. So like for example, for prostate cancer with the 3D modality of radiation, we can take up to 7 to 8 weeks of treatment. But with stereotactic, we just treat it in 5 days. And the dose per day is high, the precision is extremely high, and the side effect profile is extremely low. So as an institute, it's able to offer that type of modality of treatment. And going back to speciality, if we do have enough specialists in the country, I feel like we need to reach a point whereby we have a lot of subspecialties. That's the only way we can really be very good at what we are doing. Like we need to divide this oncology into like a breast specialist, a GI specialist,
cervical,
yes, a gyne specialist, gyne oncology, and all that. So subspeciality is very important, and I think we should be heading towards that direction.
Siti, my mom is a cancer survivor. She was diagnosed with ampullary cancer, I think it was in 2020. Just at the height of COVID-19, and that particular time it was really difficult, to do movements, go to hospital and all that. Luckily we were here in Nairobi, and she managed to get her treatment at Nairobi Hospital. She used to do her PET scan at Aga Khan. She's actually still doing PET scan just to ensure that the cancer is gone. But we are very lucky, she's very lucky because it was diagnosed quite early, because it was at a point where she had jaundice because of the ampulla being infected and all that. So the reason I'm saying that we are very lucky, and the reason I've brought it up is because it was because of the jaundice that we noticed that she went to hospital, and it was captured quite early. But many other Kenyans are not. Actually, we are currently dealing with a case whereby a child lost his life because his cancer was caught quite late. So when we talk about diagnosis, and Daktari, this one is yours, what measures is the government doing, perhaps if you know of any, that they're trying to make sure that people are being diagnosed early enough, like in the case of my mother?
First and foremost, I want to say that it is important. Patients, first of all, have a role to play, but patients must be empowered to be able to be aware about possible signs and symptoms of cancer, but also in terms of the risks that are there, so that they are aware that they need to have screening, especially those who are already predisposed either genetically because of family history, heredity, and so on, and those who, by virtue of age, for example, there's certain types of cancer where your risk is already high. So that is one of the things about awareness. And that's one of the reasons why when I'm called to a place like this, I come willingly, because we're going to help disseminate this information. That is number one. Secondly, again, the healthcare system needs to be prepared to meet these people when they come to seek help. Prepared in the sense that there's a healthcare worker who is aware and is going to do the right things when the patient comes for treatment. There's going to be enough tools. And when I talk about tools, I'm talking about whatever they need to do in terms of diagnostics for screening and so on, and those things must be funded. So those are the basic things we have to do, because the moment we are able to screen people, catch them early, especially those where cancer has not spread, management is much easier. We've got those cases where what we call cancer in situ, where it has not even moved anywhere else. Their cure is actually possible. So those are the steps that we need to take to make sure that we stem this rise. The moment we delay all that and the system fails, and we have people presenting in a late stage, the system has failed the patients. we have failed the system.
Yeah.
The system has failed people, yes.
All right. And Dr. Zara here has said that we need to have you call it subspecialization.
Yes.
Yeah. How possible or impossible is that?
It's going to take a while. And my approach is always to say that let's work with what we have. Let's make the best of what we have. And that's why I'm saying it is important that even the resources we have, we optimize their use. Even oncologists that we have, let us make sure we use them maximally. We can leverage on technology, make sure that these expertise is spread out in a manner. For example, I'll give an example. If we can have a telemedicine facility, all right, where people can be able to, in a more remote location, then you can have people accessing an oncologist from my village in Ugenya, all right? Because the truth of the matter is...
But Daktari, we already have that. We have Zoom, we have WhatsApp video call. When you say televideo,
that's part of the infrastructure required. Yes, the communication component, but there has to be somebody on the ground somewhere who is seeing somebody and connecting to Dr. Zara here, so that now we're having a conversation amongst professionals. You understand what I'm saying? That way we are now spreading her services to the periphery. One thing that she has not mentioned, which is extremely crucial, there's a huge disparity in the distribution of these oncologists. If I told you there are 70, I can outright tell you 80% of them are in Nairobi alone.
Yeah, because you said 60 actually.
Yes.
More than 60 at the moment, yes.
Yeah, so let's even go with that number of 70.
Yes.
Versus how many cancer patients that are currently known, forget the ones who have not been diagnosed.
At any time, I think you've got almost 100,000 people who are on treatment.
So we have 70
who have been diagnosed, who are living with cancer, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have about 70 patients.
Yes.
70 doctors, oncologists, having to deal with over 100,000 patients.
Yes.
Let me ask this question.
Yes, Doc.
Who's an oncologist?
An oncologist is a doctor that specialized in cancer treatment. Yes, in cancer care in full, from diagnosis to treatment all the way through to surveillance and follow-up. That's an oncologist.
That's an oncologist.
Yes. So you have to do your undergraduate first, go through 6 years of undergraduate, and then do your master's, whether 4, 5 years, depending on
where you study.
Yes.
Now, I have 3 questions.
Yes.
One, I'm going to Dr. Luen. The institute whose board you chair, of the functions that you have, what component does research have in that entirety of its mandate?
Well, that's an excellent question. In terms of research, one of the things that the National Cancer Institute is meant to do is to be able to promote research, and research that is specific to our context. Because a lot of the time we rely on data that is international data, and you cannot just copy and paste a lot of these things.
Daktari, ngoja tu kidogo. We rely on international data that has been extracted in Kenya.
Not extracted in Kenya. I'm saying from other jurisdictions. For example, when we are managing our patients, it's going to be that this has been found to work, this has been found, these treatments and so on, this is the incidence and so on.
All right, carry on.
For example, global figures. But we need something which is specific to our context. And even beyond that, we need something that there's also regional differences within our country in terms of distribution and the burden of cancer. So the research that we fund, and we fund a lot of research through research institutions, universities, and through KEMRI, for example. So we fund a lot of that research. And even yesterday during our National Cancer Summit, we had presentations from 15 of the current studies that are going on in terms of cancer research in Kenya. We had a very interesting one on esophageal cancer, for example, in northeastern Kenya, in Wajir, which there were very good insights, which it's not concluded, but that is one of the roles that we play. We get a lot of funding from external sources because we don't have sufficient funds on our own. So one of our roles is to mobilize resources, and then we have those resources, give it to institutions that have got the capacity to be able to do that research locally. So that's how we build our local knowledge.
And when we talk about research, what stage of research do we conduct here? I mean, research is broad.
Yes.
Okay? Even simply observing, you are collecting data. Okay, so are there observational studies? What sort of studies do you conduct to inform you so that when you talk about the findings we have in Kenya with regards to cancer, we know specifically that this is what we're doing?
Okay, I think the research is going to be more, we're concentrating more on research that is going to inform practice. And by that I mean, for example, if, for example, you've got a higher incidence of certain types of cancer in a certain area, we want to know what is causing this, what could be the risk factors. That gives us a way in which we can be able to manage the causes.
So we do more of quantitative research as well,
and qualitative as well. So it is both. It is both. But it all depends on what our specific needs are at particular points and for different types of cancer.
Dr. Arina, I'm coming to you.
Yes. To add on to that,
Yes.
we also have institutes that are doing phase 3 research.
We do.
Yes,
what?
phase 3.
Phase 3.
So I think we have Aga Khan and KNH that we had several research that.
Where is the research being conducted?
We have several on breast.
Okay.
Yes.
That's okay. So it's breast cancer research.
Yes.
The location, the geographical location where the research is being conducted.
No, we have several in KNH, Eldoret, Aga Khan, and these are research programs that you can take your patient from anywhere in the country and enroll that patient so long as they have the inclusion criteria to participate in that phase 3 trial.
Okay. The reason why I asked the question was going to leave the question I was going to ask you.
Yes.
Different regions in this country
Yes.
are perhaps home to different types of cancers.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So this distribution,
Yes.
given the cancers that we see as being prevalent in the country,
Yes.
can you just give us an indication of what one tends to find in abundance in which part of the country?
Okay, so to start with, the five most common cancers we have in Kenya is breast, cervix, prostate. I think breast, yes, is number 1 at 16%, cervix at 13%, prostate 8.1. Then we have esophagus and colorectal.
And colorectal, yes.
Esophagus is coming, the incidence is increasing quite high.
Right.
Yes, and that's what Dr. Ari was saying. By the way, esophagus is highly prevalent in the northeastern community, and they're trying to do trials and research to see like what drives it, what makes this community of patients have this high risk of esophageal cancer. And negative thing about that is most of the patients come to us as clinicians when they already have grade 4 dysphagia, 3 to 4. Meaning that a patient has been having these symptoms of difficulty in swallowing because there's a mass that's obstructing the pathway of food passed down.
Right.
Yes. And when the patient comes in, initially they just feel like, no, maybe it's some type of tonsillitis or some type of ulcers. They've been taking outpatient medications for
Over
so
the
long.
counter,
Yes,
yeah.
over the counter for so long. And once they come in, that dysphagia is so bad, the patient already has loss of weight and already maybe cannot even take anything solid per oral. So with esophageal cancers, the prevalence, as I said, mostly is in the northeastern community, and we're also seeing some high incidence along the Rift Valley.
I sat here with an aspirant. I think he wants to be MP in the northern region, some place in Mandera. And one thing that he pointed out is that they now currently have facilities, health facilities, and lots of doctors that they didn't have before devolution. So considering that now we have, and I think he mentioned that they have like 70 doctors, specifically doctors, not even nurses or clinic officers or whatever. Say doctors, we have 70 of them in this same northeastern region that we're experiencing some of this esophageal cancer she's talking about. So do we have enough personnel? I know we don't have enough personnel, but we have sufficient personnel in those regions to be able, who are able rather, to diagnose some of these diseases.
Like I said earlier, the aspect of personnel is always going to be a challenge. And if we are going to wait, for example, to say that oncologists are going to manage our cancer patients,
right,
it's not going to happen.
All right.
The cancer patients are going to be seen by whichever personnel, the highest level of personnel they have within that region.
Okay.
What we need to look for is a way to support them so the decision making and the clinical decisions are supported by higher level personnel. And that's why I was talking about the disparity in distribution with oncologists and looking for a way of being able to make them still be effective regardless of location.
Okay.
And also, I think it's very important to have high index of suspicion because most of these people usually have been managed for either gastritis, ulcers for very long. Some have been managed like for hemorrhoids for long, and for cervix. By the way, cervix is the number 1 leading mortality in Kenya. And it's to say like we have widespread screening programs for cervix, and it's a treatable disease, and yet still we have a high number of mortalities. We need to do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that issue of
telemedicine.
Yeah, I really need to. I need because I'm looking at it as a solution. Sitiocha kunicheka.
No, it is a solution.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as a solution. What kind of infrastructure are we looking at here to be able to ensure that?
I'll give an
this is
example.
possible, yes.
Since I used my village in Ugenya,
Yeah.
I've got a person sitting in the medical center, a dispensary or health center in a remote location. They get somebody who comes with symptoms that are looking suspicious, possibly of cancer. That is why the aspect I talked about empowering and training healthcare workers to have the high index of suspicion she's talking about, but also just to be skilled enough to be able to identify possible patients with possible cancer. Then now they say there are various things we possibly need to do, various tests and so on. They might need advice from somebody like an oncologist to be able to say, I've got this patient with this ABC, what do I do? What tests do I need to do? And so on. They can connect.
Yeah.
All right? Whether it's via Zoom or whatever mechanism. But they have to have that infrastructure, the internet facility, they've got a computer, and of course people who are trained, and on both sides. You synchronize, you have a discussion. They're sitting with the patient. She might say, examine this and this and tell me what part of the body is it? Is there this? Is there swelling in this place and so on? Is the liver enlarged and so on? They say, she says yes. Says, okay, in this patient you need to do these tests. Now, after that, the tests themselves have to be available.
Yes.
All right? So they go and do these tests. After a while, maybe they conference again, and they say, these are the results.
All right.
We've done this ABC. So you see how we're progressing cancer care and the diagnosis. Because part of the problem we have is patients go and seek care. They don't get diagnosed. They're being managed for something else. They're told you have got some infection in your alimentary system or gastrointestinal system that is causing blood in your stool.
Yeah.
But it's cancer, all right? They have given drugs told to come back after 2 weeks. They come back, this blood is still there. If anything, it is worse. You remember, you see all these delays.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying then that is how we come to the point of late diagnosis. By the time they get to a place where it is caught, now the disease has become more advanced. So we've lost time.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying that facility needs to exist. But we must have people who are sufficiently trained in the periphery to be able to catch these conditions and to be able to liaise with people who, so they're speaking the same language, and then we must have the infrastructure, the testing, whether it is imaging, whether it is lab tests and so on, that can be able to support that diagnosis. Then it comes to a point where we have confirmed, for example, this patient has cancer. Now it becomes easier for us to refer this patient. The referral infrastructure and the funding must be in place as well for the patients to come to a higher level facility and get more advanced care.
So from what I'm hearing and listening to you talk, it seems like that is very possible today if we wanted to do it today.
Yes.
But I also have the feeling that it's not happening.
No.
Yeah?
It's happening.
Is it happening?
It's not just happening as much as one would want it to, but it's happening.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I thought that maybe we were waiting for something special, a signature somewhere for it to happen.
No.
That's the vibe I had gotten earlier.
But you understand, that's one of the things that I'm talking about, the aspect about collaboration. Because you see, again, one thing we have to understand, we have got different institutions. There has to be collaboration between these institutions. For example, it might be that in my health center it's a public facility.
Yes.
For example, now she's in HCG, it's a private facility. You understand how this aspect of coordination and collaboration needs to come in, and then the aspect of funding needs to come in, because there's no need talking about things which cannot get paid for.
Okay.
All right. So all these things need to be coordinated, and that's why I'm saying we have got the resources. We need to optimize their use so that we're getting best value. But I want to demystify this issue of saying that all patients in Kenya will be seen by an oncologist. If we wait for that, we're going to lose all our patients.
Now I understand why when my mother used to go to Nairobi hospital, it used to take at least 2 hours before we saw the doctor, because now I understand very few of them, very many of us as patients.
But you know, there's in areas where HIV was prevalent, there was what called Kaposi's sarcoma. My friend, the prevalence was high. One doesn't talk about it much now, but it was a problem.
Yeah.
Because when you have patients whose immune systems have been compromised, there's no telling what it is that person is going to exhibit or what it is that is going to land on them. But the knowledge that we are speaking of and how it is that it helps us put into practice the preventative aspects of healthcare, it ties around how we train what we refer to as community health workers, whatever term you want to give them, because these are people who actually live with the wananchi. They live among people.
Yeah.
And the knowledge that is imparted in order to make possible the preventative aspect of healthcare is something that they can easily understand and they can easily put into practice.
Yeah.
So that with what they have, they can then keep escalating it. You see, if you're talking about trying to understand a disease, because before you talk about even preventing it, you really do need to understand it. You need to know what it looks like. You need to know what exhibits. That process of simply understanding at a community level, remember, you also need somebody who these people trust. Because information is just information, but information from somebody you have faith in, you will tend to internalize it quicker.
Yeah.
And a lot of the problems that we have has to do with that. Because cancer, unfortunately, this is why I tie it in, since it reminds me of HIV care and treatment in the early days. Because when somebody mentioned HIV and they had AIDS, you're talking death. Cancer, when you mention cancer, somebody already imagines, this is it.
Kwisha.
True.
And that is not the truth.
Very true.
Just to add on to what CT has mentioned there about the community health promoters, that is part of the infrastructure I'm talking about, because that is now human resource infrastructure. We have got 100,000 community health promoters on the ground.
In the entire country?
Yes.
And I understand these individuals are usually volunteers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So are they well equipped? Are they, because I know they don't necessarily receive a salary, yeah, but they get something at the end of
They
the
get a
day.
stipend,
Okay.
which I think it's about, at the moment, is about 10,000 a month, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
And it's paid 50-50 by national government and the county governments.
All right.
But that is an army of people we can utilize. The reason why it becomes important is, first of all, they are drawn from the community. They are already trusted. They know the people. Each person is allocated 100 households. Can you imagine if those people went around and started telling them, especially with these big 5 cancers that you talked about, if we could handle these big 5 cancers and reduce their impact, this is half of the cancers we have in the country, is these 5. And yet cancer is a condition you can imagine with over 100
We're talking about
different
brain
types.
tumors, skin cancers.
But there are 5 alone that makes up almost 50% of the cancers in the country. If they go around and tell the ladies, have you been screened, and so on, and the lady initially might be resistant, or it's not necessary, you say, I remember seeing Mama Daddy the other day, she had this and so on, and she went and they got it early. Understand how reinforcing that information. But they have to be equipped. They see somebody who has got some weight loss, which is not explained. They say, mimi appetite sio mzuri, I'm losing weight, niko na joto nini. Somebody says, you know what, there's something that's not right here. You go to the local facility. You understand how this is extremely important. So all the resources that we need, we actually already have.
Actually, we
actually already have. We just need to deploy
you
them
have
more.
to ask, this agenda when it comes to diseases in the country, we're talking of cancer. The process of ensuring that we control it, contain it, treat it, who's driving this agenda? Because if the conversation is focused on treatment, we've lost the fight.
True.
We've actually lost it. Because before a disease gets to a point where it's killing you, it started somewhere. And that's where the preventative aspect is important.
Yeah.
And believe me, if the focus is preventative, you'd be amazed at how the cases that we keep dealing with for treatment will reduce.
HCG is a private facility, obviously, and we understand that cancer treatment is quite a costly affair. Maybe we can look at those aspects when it comes to your facility and how they're handling these particular cases of cancer. So, for example, right now, would you be able to know how many patients you're currently handling in your facility?
So currently on the radiotherapy machine, we are treating more than 100 patients per day.
100 per day?
100 per day.
These are individuals who come for radiotherapy?
Yes, for radiotherapy.
Okay.
And I think also KU is treating the same number per day. And we're talking about numbers on the machine. The waiting time in a government facility is high, meaning that we really need to increase the radiotherapy treatment machine, because I feel like more timing and has been given to the medical aspect of oncology. We've improved. In the past, we only had radiation treatment available in Nairobi. As I said in the beginning, currently we have radiotherapy machines in Mombasa, Garissa, Nakuru, Eldoret. But still, we need to do better, because radiation is one of the vital treatment modalities for cancer care. So also, like I was speaking to a very senior oncologist, and he told me, like, do you know that one machine should treat about 40 cases per day? But we cannot afford to treat 40 cases a day.
You're doing 100?
100 per day.
So is that putting a strain on the machine, Ama? It's okay.
It is in a bit. It is putting a strain.
I'd like to find out, Queenie, how much is this machine? Because I'm thinking,
do you know the price of the machine?
We see
I know
politicians.
it's quite costly.
We see politicians handing out millions every Sunday in churches and harambes.
It's a few hundred million.
Yeah, I think it's about 500 million.
What? Just one machine.
Just one machine.
So
if I'm not,
so
I don't know the exact
So
figure.
that it's $500 million.
So it's $500 million.
A bus.
All right. So
Yes.
so it's $500 million.
Yes.
So you want to tell me that, like, in this year alone, we have seen politicians giving out proper money out
No,
there.
you've heard politicians saying
That's a
they're
different
giving money.
So they've not actually. City always has conspiracy theories. Yeah?
No, I'm simply saying you've heard them pledging and saying they're going to give.
So if they pledge, because I'm thinking, if we just take 5 or let's even say 10 of the top politicians in this country, we can have maybe another 2 to 3 machines being added to the let me call it national grid.
You know, one of the things that we have to do, and that's one of the things that lands squarely at our doorstep as NCI, we have to elevate this conversation.
Yeah.
Make this a priority. And I like the advocacy groups like the Kenya National Cancer Cancer Organizations. They've got a consortium. We call it kelele takatifu. I used to call it a joyful noise, but now I had the phrase kelele takatifu, which I like even better. They just need to make noise, because this has to be made a priority. Across across the entire sector. Because, like you're saying, we've got a lot of resources we are putting to purposes which don't necessarily serve
they don't
a very
serve.
useful purpose. These handouts that are given out and so on, sometimes they're very short term in terms of
You
benefit.
can't treat this thing with hiccup donations like those. You actually need policy.
Yes.
However, I'm just saying we can get there, because they're the same guys who make policy.
Actually, it's not a question of getting there.
We can pray under a church. We don't need one costing 350 million. Yeah, we can. Tunaweza enda hata kwa nyumba yangu naweza omba. Sawa. So what I'm suggesting is, we can make that policy, but we clearly know the money is available. We know for a fact.
Unajua, I'm starting the statement with the Kiswahili word unajua. We are talking about healthcare in the country, and we're talking about priorities.
Right.
And we are talking about a disease that is now a problem.
Yes, it is.
You hear more of it, and most of what you hear is surrounded by an absence of actual knowledge as to what should be done. And we're saying we have the building blocks to make it understood, so that the managing of it is that much easier. You already have the personnel. We haven't deployed them fully. See, one of the advantages of age is that you can draw on past experiences. The idea of field workers or extension workers or community workers has been with us for the longest time. And the reason why it is there because it has worked. Even as groups who you use for collecting specific data for specific regions, they are ideal. But why I talk about policy is not just the broad policy, but the understanding that what we understand and find must be implemented. Now, that priority and the will to ensure that it is done. HIV was tackled because the funding did not come from the government of Kenya.
Okay.
It did not. We got funding from elsewhere, and it was a lot of it. If you look at the funding that Dr. Luenyi is talking about, friends outside the country support it tremendously. We have a policy in this country where a certain portion of our GDP is allocated towards research. We have that policy. How much of that money is used in research, one doesn't really know. So his task is to go beyond the boundaries of what is available locally if he hopes to get this thing done. You have to partner with people who have been doing this for a long time and have an idea of how it is you tackle this thing from the ground going up.
Okay.
Just to comment about funding. Yesterday when we were at the summit, Dr. Gibinji Gitai, the CEO of AMREF, mentioned, and he's also my predecessor as actually chair of NCI. He mentioned that the funding, the reason why, especially funding for things like cancer, is not as robust, is not as coming as easily from the developed world as for other things, is because a lot of the funding that they give, you must remember they give it to us to protect them from things that we could get and spread to them.
Yes.
So it's about global health security.
Yes.
So it's more about infectious disease. When it's Ebola, they will flood the money there and make sure this Ebola
because they
doesn't
don't want
spread.
Ebola in their countries.
HIV was the same. All right? Those kind of things. Now, cancer, that risk doesn't really exist of spreading cancer to the US to that develop. You understand? Non-communicable. And therefore, that one you guys handle yourselves.
You know,
right?
The reason I'm,
and especially in the current scenario where we've got the change in the mindset of leadership of the country that leads the world in the US, it's going to be tough. We have to look for ways of being able to increase the funding that we have ourselves locally, and again optimize those resources to make sure we're using them to the best.
You know, if you just look at two of the most recent cases that were brought up by the Auditor General just recently in the last couple of days, the 44 billion missing from eCitizen, then there's the other 784 missing from Marsabit. If we just take the 44 billion alone, I'm looking at over 80 of these machines. I'm looking at Marsabit having a machine of their own. But anyway, those are cases still in court, so they will deal with them when they deal with them. But here's the issue. It's and I'm saying this because I'm sure, I don't know, but I hope that you sit in a committee somewhere with people like the CS of Health and the CS of Treasury when they're making these budgets, to ensure that they understand. Because I feel like they know, it's just that they don't understand the situation on the ground, that we actually need these facilities, we need these people, the CHPs, and we need the medical personnel, the oncologists that she was talking about. Do you see it in those places?
I sit in those places occasionally.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I also have to highlight here, before I answer your question, our healthcare system, the architecture has become very complex, and especially with devolution. And I'll tell you why. When you go to see your Council of Governors office, you always see one country, 48 governments. That's literally what we have. We've got national government taking care of a certain part of the healthcare system, and a very small component, by the way, because they only take care of the national referral hospitals and so on, which are like 6. Then after that, we have got all these other health facilities that are being run by 48 different
governments.
Yes, governments. 47 different governments.
So,
and then what happens is, even those governments, the priorities within those governments there's a huge disparity. You find that there's some counties where the healthcare system is pretty advanced and there's a lot of focus and they prioritize healthcare, and there are others where really you can see it's not a priority. Right? So that's why again you've got disparity amongst these different places. To complicate things further, the population is not restricted to county. The population is mobile. If their county doesn't have this health facility in Kiambu, they'll come to Nairobi. The ones, for example, when we got the cancer centers, like in Nakuru, for example, one of the challenges they had is they've got the facility in Nakuru, and you've got patients from all the other surrounding counties coming to access the care. And they're like, why should we be the one taking the burden of maintaining this cancer care center? And these other people are not deploying resources. So that complexity. Then to make matters worse, an additional layer in terms of ownership, you also have private health facilities, you have faith-based facilities. So understand how this aspect about coordination, and yet the patients are one, and the patients can move from one facility anytime at one time or another. So you have a patient who can come from a private facility like HCG. There are times when the resources become scarce. They say, now that we go to a public facility, they move, but we want patients to move seamlessly because the care must still be coordinated. And this is where we also lose time. Because as someone tries to get a referral now from a different type facility to another, from a lower one to a higher one, there's time lost, there's money required, there's some authorization required from the person who's paying. So there's a lot of delays in the system, and this hurts.
What we like calling bureaucracy here.
Yes, and that hurts cancer patients a lot.
When people sit in a committee and the healthcare providers are involved and they talk about like the issues on the ground, Dr. was telling me it's one thing to hear and another thing to listen and implement what is being said. Yeah.
So do you actually, you didn't answer that part. Do you sit with these guys? And do they listen?
He said he sits with them.
Yeah.
I sit. And especially, for example, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
For example, when it comes to the machines that we're talking about, the radiotherapy machines, We have got some which are already, we had discussions with the CS of Health and the International Atomic Energy Agency. There are already another 2 that are supposed to become, hopefully to be donated by IEA, and so they beef up this aspect about
and they already donated 2.
Yes, they already
one
did.
In Mombasa. Now Mombasa has 2 radiotherapy machines, and one in Nakuru. So these 2 were also donated by IEA.
Yes. Okay. So we've got an additional one. So there are things that are being done. I'm just saying there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Okay.
There's some things that are in progress. If you were to ask me my honest position, do they listen enough? And especially, you see, that's what I'm saying, even government is very complex.
Yeah.
It's not even something that's purely the mandate of the CS of Health, for example. The CS of Health has to work, the people through the PSs, they have got to get the various, they go and sit together with everybody else and put in their requests in the form of these budget requests and so on. And then you hear this term, fiscal space is always tight, and they'll allocate the priorities. So the truth is, you never really get what you ask for.
Yeah.
But my approach has always been get what you can and then work with it, make as much impact as you can as you keep asking for more.
You know what is of interest when you talk about cancer and the understanding of it? As you're speaking, I was thinking to myself, if certain types of cancers are prevalent in certain parts of the country, just the process of understanding why it is that those cancers are prevalent there, and it will be associated with maybe the environment, if I'm being broad-minded.
Yes.
Epigenetics.
Yes, exactly. Certain cultural practices that people have, certain dietary considerations that people have, all these things. Now, that understanding is something we don't have to get from anybody's country. It's something that we can do here.
Yes.
It's something that we can actually easily understand. Now, how do we move from looking at this thing as something that is a problem and a burden to looking at this same issue as something that we can actually overcome and we can actually sort out? Because if I approach an issue with the mindset of this thing is difficult, then I start with a load on my head.
You've already been defeated.
I'm already encumbered. But if I start with the idea that this is something that we can do, I'll be looking at the same thing, but I'll be looking at it differently. My question now, when we look at cancer, is it that now we are able to detect cancer more readily and more easily? Or is it that the prevalence is actually real and that cancer is actually a growth industry in the country and that the prevalence of these cancers is actually increasing? Or is it that because we are many, what exactly are we dealing with?
It is all of them.
All of them.
It is all of them. Because we are first of all, what we refer to as modifiable risk factors. Our environment has got challenges. And you've mentioned, for example, things to do with the environment. These areas become very testy sometimes, and that's why multi-sectoral collaboration is required. When you go to the agricultural sector, we've got some sudden carcinogens there in terms of chemicals.
Pesticides.
Pesticides, fertilizers. That's a real issue. These things are making their way. For example, you've got waste that's coming from different factories. These are the things that contribute. It ends up in drinking water and so on. Those are the kind of challenges. So environment, that's why it's multi-sectoral. This is a whole of government approach. Even during our conference, what happened is you have to invite people from the different sectors and the PSs and the leadership from the different ministries, because you can't do this alone. You need education. When you want to say you want to vaccinate girls against HPV, Ministry of Education has to be involved. When you want to talk about environment, the agriculture, for example, has to be involved. So there are very many other ministries that are required. But to answer CT's question, our environment is contributing. That has changed. It is very different from what we had maybe 30, 50 years ago when people were just doing regular agriculture, growing without fertilizer, organically. Yes. Then you've got the lifestyle. People have got lifestyle factors. Our diets have changed. This obesity is a bigger problem. All these things are increasing the incidence of cancer. We are taking more sugar in our foods. We are consuming more alcohol, excessive consumption. Tobacco is a challenge. Those are things that are increasing incidence of cancer. Then in addition to that, we are also more, and we are also diagnosing more of them and diagnosing. We've got the tools now to be able to tell that it's not just some strange disease that has killed so and so that somebody has. Now we can actually go down and actually find and say it is this form of cancer, which before wasn't possible.
I want to go back to something very basic. What exactly is cancer? this thing. What is it that makes it what it is, and what is it that makes it as dangerous as it is, and what is it that it does to us?
The oncologist in the house.
What is it?
So cancer is an abnormal growth of cells. So this cell, when it gets an impact, it undergoes DNA damage.
These are cells in our
Yes,
body.
cells in our body.
Okay.
The human body is made up of millions of cells. Now, when this cell gets a damage impact, either from many factors, and these factors are usually multiple, like Dr. has said, from environmental to epigenetics, genetics, and all that. So when we have DNA damage, the cell is supposed to either undergo repair or undergo cell death. So when these two does not happen, the cell undergoes mutation, and we have an abnormal cell growth.
Dr. Pause. You know, when you say repair, my mind immediately went into vehicle repair.
Panel beating.
And I'm thinking, okay. So, at what point do we panel beat this cancer cell?
CT.
And this repair, is it something the body manages on its own?
Yes, the body has
What do you
its
need to
own-
give your body so that it manages such
the body
things
has
better?
its own mechanism of
Yes.
repair. So either when repair doesn't happen or cell death doesn't happen, then this cell continues to grow abnormally. Now, there was...
Abnormal here means what exactly? If
So
it was
if the DNA is damaged and this cell doesn't die, that means this cell has literally changed its identity. So it grows as something different. So it multiplies because cells multiply. So it might multiplies to the next cell and the next cell, and eventually when they become millions, it's cancer.
Don't go there. So essentially, let's say this cell is a Kenyan.
Yes.
So why are you laughing, Doctor?
Who has gone rogue?
Let's use this
He
analogy.
stops being a Kenyan. What does he become, a Tanzanian?
So if we're gonna use countries, nationalities, so if it stops being a Kenyan,
Yes.
it ends up being a rogue Kenyan. So it's still a Kenyan.
Yes.
It's just a rogue Kenyan, and then now it goes, multiplying and taking up resources from the
Then
other
it isn't
cells.
a Kenyan or a Tanzanian, it's an East African now. So it's now...
Yeah.
Let me try and simplify this so that we don't lose the wananchi. Because I think it's an important point.
Right.
We have got cells in the body. They normally are specific for particular types. They perform a particular function and so on. Then now you've got some cells which become abnormal, regardless of the reason, like the DNA and so on, but that's too complicated.
Yeah.
The cells just become abnormal. They are not behaving the way they should. They start, first of all, they grow uncontrollably. Normally, cells will grow, and based on body's need, and they grow. The number is fairly constant. So, for example, you've got X number of cells as a constant. Some are always being formed, some are dying. So, then you've got some cells that just run amok. They start growing uncontrollably. They start now, first of all, not respecting boundaries. They are now stretching into territories which are not theirs. So, it's invading other tissues around it. Sometimes even go in the bloodstream, or what we call part of the circulatory system, lymphatic system, and spread and go to other places and start growing there again uncontrollably. All right. So that is what cancer cells are. So sometimes, most of the time, they form a mass or a tumor or a swelling. All right. But then sometimes they also spread, and wherever they go, they are causing havoc.
So
That's what
essentially,
cancer is.
Again, they form a cartel.
Yeah. They form a cartel.
Yes.
Yes, and I just like for 1 centimeter of cell, like a growth, for you to identify that this is a growth. Usually, it has 1 centimeter mass has 1 times 10 to the power 6 cancer cells.
So that's a million.
Yes, in a 1 centimeter mass of abnormal cancer cells.
Yeah.
And I also want to add on that there is hallmark of cancer cells. What does this mean? It's like the characteristics of these cells that make them to become, grow and spread. Like they're able to evade the immune system. Your immune system is supposed to protect you from different
Rogue
things.
elements, yeah.
Yes, but the cancer cells form a mechanism in which they're able to invade, metastasize, evade the immune system, and like they have their own supply. They are not dependent on the blood supply or anything from the surrounding system. They form their own supply of everything. So
that
they
means
are
that
very
they create
clever.
they create their own network of
Yes.
blood capillaries,
Yes,
vessels, and all
yes,
that.
Yes,
The
yes.
cartel.
Yeah. Actually,
And they are quite
So
resistant.
essentially, they're
It's a
a criminal
cartel.
enterprise.
Yes.
So now that we've understood, and hopefully the listener has also understood what cancer is. So when we do chemotherapy,
Yes.
So what are we doing? We are attacking this particular cell. In how do we know that this chemotherapy will attack the skin cancer or the leukemia or the colon cancer?
So what chemo does is there are different mechanism of actions of the different chemos available. So it goes and kills the cancer cell. But with the current treatment modalities, we are moving more towards targeted treatment.
Okay.
You see, with chemo, there is the damage to the cancer cells, but there is also there may be some side effects of the chemotherapy that may be due to damage of the normal cells.
All right.
Now, for GI, the patient may be getting nausea, vomiting, some diarrhea, because the epithelial cells of the GI lining usually undergo acute damage.
Okay.
And then they repair themselves because they're normal cells. They undergo repair. It's unlike the cancer cells. So what chemotherapy does, it makes that attacks the cancer cell. But with the current modality, with different types of cancers, we are moving towards targeted treatment. That is why genomics is very important. In the research that we are talking about, we have to identify what is driving this cancer to grow.
All right.
Which mutation is causing this cancer to grow.
So Dr. Zah, I'll cut you there for a minute. When we return, of course, after the news break, we shall also talk about why a lot of us are heading to countries such as the UK, the US for treatment, and most importantly, India. What is in India that is not in Kenya? So don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. Kenya and Tanzania are on a warpath as thousands of Kenyans residing and doing businesses in Tanzania are staring at a business shutdown. This is after Tanzania's Minister for Trade and Industry, Selemani Saidi Jafo, earlier this week amended the Business Licensing Act, a decision that will see all foreigners cede small and medium-sized businesses to natives. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi said the actions from Tanzania are far-reaching and are already on President William Ruto's table.
Mheshimiwa Rais pia kama mwenyekiti wa East African Community Summit anawasiliana na Rais wa Jamhuri ya Tanzania na pia waziri ambaye anahusika na mambo ya biashara. Kwa hivyo tunatumia mbinu za kidiplomasia kutatua yale mmeona kwa magazeti.
Trade CS Lee Kinyanjui also said that the country is looking to resolve the matter diplomatically and said retaliation should be the last resort over the matter.
As to whether retaliation is one of the cards on the table, maybe the point is we can't rule it out, but I think that should really be the last thing. The first thing is to give diplomacy and negotiations an opportunity, and that's really the direction we want to go.
Kenya has signed 8 agreements with Uganda to boost bilateral cooperation. This was during Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni's official visit to Kenya on Wednesday. Speaking at State House, Nairobi, after witnessing the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding with President Museveni on Wednesday, President William Ruto said the new agreements will build on 17 existing agreements and will strengthen ties between the two countries and drive economic development. He noted that the agreements will foster people-to-people ties and ensure that the relationship between the two countries provides real benefits for both nations.
The MOU on tourism is to promote a joint destination and marketing, cultural exchange, and ecotourism. Emormor will now find it much more easy to find his way into Kenya. As you are aware, Mr. President, we have the Teso King, who some Kenyans owe allegiance to him, so sometimes they find their way to Uganda. Somehow he stays in Uganda. Maybe we'll also find some residence for him in Kenya. But part of it is the whole building, the whole system of cultural tourism.
The National Assembly has passed the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2025. The move sets in motion the release of 16.8 billion Kenya shillings to support the delivery of basic services in Kenya's marginalized areas during the 2025-2026 financial year. The bill gives legal effect to Article 2041 of the Constitution, which establishes the Equalization Fund to finance the provision of water, roads, electricity, and health services in historically underserved areas. The bill identifies counties with the highest levels based on the second policy of marginalization. Kenya's electricity demand has reached record levels, driven by a sharp increase in customer connections and heightened usage during the ongoing cold season, according to Kenya Power. The utility firm recorded a peak demand of 2,362.28 megawatts on July 23, 2025, the highest ever in the country's history. This surpassed the previous record of 2,325 megawatts set just 3 weeks earlier on July 2nd. That figure had already overtaken the earlier peak of 2,316 megawatts recorded in February this year. Kenya Power attributed the spike to more Kenyans turning to electricity for heating as low temperatures continue to be felt across the country. Democrats moved Wednesday to force Donald Trump to release files from the investigation into notorious sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The lawmakers are invoking an obscure law to keep up the pressure on an issue that has roiled the U.S. president's administration. The White House has been facing increasingly intense demands to be more transparent about the case of the disgraced financier who died in a federal prison in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. The Justice Department angered Trump supporters earlier this month when it said Epstein had died by suicide and had no client list.
Floor this morning with some news. Today, Senate Democrats take additional action to try and uncover the truth about the Epstein files. This morning, I join all of my Democratic colleagues on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee in invoking a century-old law known as the Rule of Five, to compel the Department of Justice to release the full and complete Epstein files, which to date, of course, they have refused to be transparent about. Under federal law, when any 5 senators on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee call on the executive branch to release investigative documents, they must comply.
And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning. I'm Winnie Maganga.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Radio Generation. Radio Generation assumes no responsibility or liability for the interviewee's views. This is Radio Generation. In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast, curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast, your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
All right, welcome back to Radio Generation. My name is Mung'ala Mbuvi, and yes, we are usually having a conversation when the news is ongoing. But yeah, so the conversation in the previous hour was about cancer, and in studio we have Dr. Zara Ahmed, and we also have Dr. Timothy Olweni. Dr. Zara is a radio oncologist with HCG Cancer Center, and Dr. Timothy Olweni is a chairperson, National Cancer Institute. And you know, at least in the previous hour, we had an understanding of what cancer is. But what we don't have an understanding is why, despite all these treatment options and opportunities we have in Kenya, we still have a lot of people going out of the country. And it's understandable. There's some people who think that perhaps out there we have better qualified doctors or better facilities and so on and so forth. So, Dr. Oleni, this one is yours. Is it true that we have better treatment out there, outside Kenya, than we have here in Kenya?
Sometimes we do have better treatment out there.
Okay.
That is a fact. It all depends on where you go and for what condition. There are certain conditions we don't have significant experience or expertise, or we might not have the tools to be able to manage.
Such as?
All right. And I'll say more higher level things. I'll let the oncologist say. I don't want to rub.
I wanted to ask the same question, such as because
Dr. Lady is protecting his career.
Let me tell you one thing.
Yes,
Medicine
yes.
is both a science and an art. And I'll give you an example. If you have a patient who needs a certain type of surgery, for example, all right, will you go to the surgeon who has done 2 cases or the one who has done 1,000?
All right.
All right. That's why I'm saying
It's a
it's
fair
not
question.
about being able to perform the procedure. So sometimes we've got people out there who have got higher levels of experience. I'll give the example of India because it's a common one. India has got a population of 1.5 billion people. The levels of experience and specialization, just by virtue of the numbers they have, you can have somebody focus on a very specific condition and be able to manage massive numbers of that condition, as opposed to us. All right. So there are times that you've got better expertise out there. That having been said, our local capacity is extremely high. And over the years, we've got a lot of people who are trained, including my colleague here, who is trained in those places out of the country that some people want to go for treatment. We have got the expertise locally. So what we need is to have a system that supports patients to get treatment locally. One of the things that we fail as a medical fraternity is that based on our background and our training, we are not people who solicit for work. We don't market ourselves. We don't, and that also includes
Are you
people-
allowed to?
Technically, we are. In terms of being able to tell people what services we offer, we should. We should. All right.
So
the problem,
nothing prohibits you.
The problem is there's a fine line that you cannot cross. You can't start going and saying I'm the best. This come for the best. You know those kind of things.
Okay, why
Advertising. I know those are the things that we shy away from because you can see how it can get unethical. All right.
Yeah.
And especially when it has no solid basis. A lot of the people who shout the loudest might not be the people who are actually the best. All right.
But you see, you have competition because if you look at the papers, you'll find that there's a professor, God knows what and what and what, who cures everything.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
If you have a love problem, he can sort it out for you.
Yes.
Nguvu za kiume.
Yes. If
He does everything.
If you don't have a job, he can organize it for you.
And he cures cancer, most importantly.
Most importantly, he cures cancer.
Whereas for us, a lot of the time, we're telling we can only manage it, cure is not possible.
Yes.
But going back to my point, we have got to be better at telling people what services are available locally.
Yeah.
What treatments they can get and to what extent. Because a lot of the people who leave this country, by the way, just don't have the information that these services are available locally.
Doctor, if I may just opine on something. When you talk about medical tourism, most Kenyans don't understand that there are very many people within the region who come to Kenya
for the same thing.
Yes, they actually come here, and we have not a few, many people. Some from places where you would think they wouldn't leave their country to come here, and yet they do.
Are you talking about Tanzania?
No,
not Tanzania.
No.
I currently have patients from DRC, South Sudan, Northern Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, several.
Even South Africans come here for treatment, just so that you understand. And we also go there for treatment.
Yeah. Actually, doctor,
there are even people who come from developed countries because they cannot be able to either afford the treatments there or they have got a too long a wait.
Yeah.
They come and be able to get the procedure high level here. So it's in terms of marketing, what we do, we have to get that information out. The second thing is the cost of this care. And the cost of this care is one of these things that we need to have a wider cost of care debate amongst our system, because one of the things that's driving people out of this country again is the cost. As a medical fraternity, whether it's healthcare providers, institutional or individual, we have to discuss this issue, because a lot of economies, the jurisdictions out there, for example India, make their money from the volumes. All right.
Yes.
Some people think about it from a very myopic perspective of saying, I do only 2 cases a year, so I better make enough money out of these 2. And by virtue of pricing it wrong, you're going to send away everybody. So what we end up being is a clearing and forwarding agency, where you diagnose people, next thing you know, they have left. But there's a lot of problems with this medical tourism. In fact, I don't like that term. I prefer the term cross-border contracting of medical services, because tourism, just see somebody on a beach somewhere, and that's not what they're going to. We're going out there to do when you say medical tourism. But there's a lot of issues. What we need to address is underlying reasons as to why people are going. Once we understand that, then we fix it. But in the absence of us getting to the point where we understand that, trying to block people, for example, saying we're not going to provide public funding for you to go out of the country, we can't deny those people who actually need to go out of the country. But for everybody, especially when it's publicly funded, for everybody whose medical condition can be managed effectively locally, they must.
Dr. Zara, I feel like you have something to say.
I feel like as a country, we are able to manage almost, if not all, of what is provided outside. Very honestly speaking, yes, the specialist numbers is not that high, but we have very highly specialized individuals who can provide excellent care to patients. This comes from a perspective where I have sat and seen patients coming from outside the country whose management does not align with the current recommendations. People will go, like, let's say, and I was just giving this example, a patient with breast cancer, locally advanced. Nowadays, we don't treat breast cancer as one. You have to know the biology behind it. You have to do certain tests to know what drives this cancer, so that you can be sure, does this patient need treatment before the surgery, according to the stage. So from the biological drivers, you will know if the patient needs targeted plus chemo before surgery, because if this tumor shrinks, now from an oncology perspective, if this tumor shrinks before surgery and this patient gets something called a pathological complete response, meaning that after surgery, you check where the tumor was microscopically and there's no cancer cell, these patients have the best outcome.
Okay.
Understood?
Right.
But this treatment, the neoadjuvant, which means treatment that is given prior to surgery, usually takes about 5 to 6 months. You can't tell me that all patients going outside are able to stay there for 6 months. Not all can do that because it's more expensive. So when patients go out and they're given surgery as this first option for some of the locally advanced disease, that is not the best practice. You understand?
Yes.
While this patient could have gotten better management back at home, but maybe we have to build trust. Patients have to trust us for them to understand that we are able to do most, if not everything, that is provided in all these in all these countries.
Dr. Zara, the practice that we observe from you practitioners of healthcare is that you're accustomed to people coming to you. You don't go to them.
But that's the whole point of programs where we do screening. And I think we have certain bodies that screening programs are widely spread, but there are some rural areas where there was less than 1% uptake.
What I'm saying is not a criticism of the practice.
Yes.
No. I am simply saying that a window opportunity exists which you haven't taken. If what we're doing here was done more often, and you in this sphere of influence spoke more about what you did, more people would understand. See, this is radio, and radio is good because of its terrestrial nature. I am simply saying that medical practitioners do themselves a disservice by not telling people the things that we are now talking about to the extent that we need to talk about them. I think because doctors are trusted.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is a good start, and I do agree with you. We should do more of this so that patients can be able to understand what is available, what we are able to offer, and like the right modalities of treatment. It's not just about being treated, but being treated properly.
You see, like we're talking of cancers, and we know that there are parts of the country where certain things are prevalent, as we've said.
Yes.
Now, when this is spoken of, and you take the time to go to the thing about our media, it's very broad-based. No pun intended here. No pun intended. We are able to communicate these things even in those regions where we find these cancers prevalent.
Yes.
And go into even details. Talk about the signs and symptoms that one sees. Again, I'm going back to what I started off with.
Yes, preventive.
The opportunity to do justice to your chosen professions exists. The advantage is not being taken. That's really my point.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to agree with that as well, I think we need to restore the confidence in our healthcare system.
Sure.
Entire healthcare system, whether it's individual practitioners, whether it's institutions and so on. And I'll give you an example. you have an institution somewhere, one incident occurs, however bad it is, and in fact, it can be as bad as, like we talked about the other day, where you have a patient who is murdered within a hospital facility, right? And that can happen in any sector. But you see, that gets highlighted to an extent that it does so much damage to the confidence in that system, and yet you've got hundreds of thousands of patients who have got good outcomes, which nobody talks about. You understand how, when it comes to highlighting some of these things, we do ourselves a disservice by not telling people what we're doing. You know, it could be as simple as saying, in this particular facility, we have had 10,000 surgeries. For example, if it was KNH, 10,000 surgeries for this particular condition, the outcomes have been this.
Yes.
And it's that simple information patients can understand.
Yeah.
So if somebody has got some form of cancer and needs that surgery, he says, no, really, 10,000 have been done and 9,700 and something had got good outcomes.
This is a good
the
place
other
to
one,
go.
this is a good place to go. You understand how just that information alone is important. Secondly, you've got, for example, when you've got healthcare worker unrest, when doctors are on strike for whatever reason, it is highlighted and it's on TV consistently the whole time. It makes it look like the whole healthcare system is paralyzed because of this.
To highlight on the
And that's what I'm
negatives.
telling you. That's why we have to do a better job. There's an aspect of patriotism a little bit here, and I keep giving examples, like even in the US when you had 9/11.
Yeah.
They didn't even show anything. Because it becomes patriotism, it becomes a national issue. They're not going to give the terrorists the pleasure of looking at Americans.
Of giving them free advertisements about how successful they've been.
So that's what I'm saying. There are certain things about our healthcare system where we could do things to be able to restore this confidence, because that is part of the reason why we're losing our patients and they're going out of the country. The worst part is they are going out of the country a lot of time to institutions that are inferior to where they can get care here. You know, you can go to a level 2, 3 facility in India and still come back and saying, me have gone to India for treatment, and left a level 6 facilities in Kenya, which could have done the job much better and at a lower price. So, in summary, we have to restore confidence in our healthcare system. We have to do a better job of letting people know what services are. If you want to know how rudimentary things are, even for me as a healthcare professional, I get a patient whom I need to refer to a gynecologist in Mombasa. I don't know which gynecologist is there. Do you know what we do? We go to our WhatsApp group for the class group and say, hey, by the way, the truth is I actually don't even know that person, but it's based on a referral and I send. All right, we just need to have a system where information is more readily available.
And also,
adding to what Dr. has said, what we are able to do. Many people, when you tell them they're stage 4, people think that's the end of life. Yes, but currently, even stage 4, we divide it into oligometastatic disease. So, meaning
in English,
oligometastatic, meaning. So, what does stage 4 mean? Stage 4 means the cancer has spread from where it started to another organ. Understood? So, like the cancer started in the breast, but has spread to the liver. The cancer started in the colon, but you have liver spread, or you have lung spread to another organ. That is what stage 4 means. Stage 1, 2, 3 is a cancer that is localized locally or loco-regional within the normal regional area, the lymphatic system. So currently, we are able to treat oligometastatic. Oligometastatic means
break it down.
You have
Oligo is who?
Oligo is a primary tumor.
Not someone who comes from the terrorist
No.
Not a relative of mine.
Yes.
Limited metastasis, limited spread.
Yes.
And we have a wide definition of oligometastatic. Some people say 3 lesions, some up to 5, but it all depends with where it has spread and the remnant reserve. So like for cancer of the colon, for example, that you have spread to the liver. This is stage 4 disease, but it's still we are still able to treat it curatively, either with surgery in both areas after treatment with either chemo and radio, or with stereotactic radiotherapy to the metastatic lesion.
Okay.
Understood?
Yes.
Yes, we are able to offer those services. So even in such scenarios, patients honestly do not need to travel for treatment.
Once in a while, whenever I log onto YouTube and I watch a video too, there's this advert that comes. There's a gentleman, he's Caucasian, so he's on a bed, he's clearly sick from what I see, but he's advertising this particular facility. I think it's a facility in the US, and he goes on to say, I think it's an orthopedic institution. So he goes on to say the way he's received this surgery and it's working very well. So basically he's advertising this place, and he's telling people to do what? To go and get treatment there in case they have a similar situation. I don't see that happening here in Kenya. I think once or twice I have seen an advert by Aga Khan. But I do not see like proper adverts coming from HCG and even the Kenya Cancer Institute, just to tell people that, look, this is what is happening in the country as far as cancer is concerned. These are the available treatments. You can get them here, We have collaborated with HCG or any other institution. So are we bound to see that? We don't even see you guys coming to the ground, whether it's on a day that we're celebrating cancer or just publicizing cancer. I think October is cancer month or something. So I honestly do not feel your presence on the ground, just letting people know that this is what is available, this is what is happening, and this is how you can get treated. I think majority of us get to know that we are sick once symptoms have gotten really severe, like you said earlier on. So where are we on that?
That's a challenge which we have taken, and we've taken very seriously in terms of being able to elevate this conversation. To the level where the public are aware of, first of all, who NCI are, what our roles is. It is very important for us to be able to tell people, for example, even when they have got a cancer diagnosis, which centers they can visit and visit for what. All right. So it is important for us to map out all the facilities, say this is the services that are available here. For example, like she mentioned, we've got places that can do all three big things. For example, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and what's the other one? Immunotherapy, for example. But also have the surgery. That's what I meant. Surgery and the medical therapies and radiotherapy. You can have it in these places. In this particular place, you can have only these two. Even for public health, private health facilities, these are the places you can go for this and this. We need to even get to the point where we tell people this is the pricing.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that we can help people in terms of managing resources, because the resources are always limited. They need to be able to know where they can get best bang for their buck and still maintain quality, isn't it? So you might be going to a place, to a particular facility, and you're paying 200,000-300,000 shillings for a particular procedure, whereas you can go and get it somewhere else without compromising quality at 150,000. So these are the things that we need to help. Information just has to be more available. So talking about the cancer days and so on, the approach is they're supposed to be used more to publicize these efforts and so on. It's a good PR event. But in terms of impact, we want it to be that things like screening and so on are just part of everyday regular medical care, as opposed to saying we have it on one particular day, because the impact is not that great.
Let me ask this question. If you look at the health facilities that we have, what level of health facility is able to screen?
Level 1, 2, 3, 4.
We want it at level 2, 3. And that's the primary.
Currently, as you speak, where are we able to screen cancer? What level? Right now?
We can screen cancer at level 2 and level 3. And we can. But not every part of the country. Remember how I told you?
Not all level 2s, not all level 3s.
Yes, this architecture is complex. At the moment, even if you go for malaria treatment, there's some malaria treatment facilities that you have in level 2, level 3, that you might not even be able to get that treatment. And the others that are able to do much more. And I'll give examples. For example, I'm hearing very good reports from places like Muranga, for example, where the healthcare delivery, and places like Kisumu, where healthcare delivery is really a priority. And that's why I'm saying these are the things that we need to tell people. And it also introduces competition amongst even the counties, for example. You can imagine what impact it would have if, as National Cancer Institute, we tell people these are the counties where you're able to get.
You see why I asked the question? All these health facilities have boards.
Yes.
And the boards tend to be locals. These are people who are known within the communities, and that's why they are in those boards. Now, if we're talking about a 360 approach to ensuring that information is cascaded to the people who need it most, something like screening, I'm focusing on the screening because that's where we start with this.
Yes.
Certainly, what is needed to screen is infinitely less than what we need to even start the process of treatment.
Correct.
Now, brings me now to the training. Do we have sufficient health personnel who can screen?
I'll take that as a no.
No. So I'll take it as, let's think about it and see how best to answer.
Yes. I think we need more TOTs, trainers of trainees. Before I went for my master's, there were several programs where we could go to KNH and be trained. I had interest in oncology, but I didn't have like masters in oncology. So they would take from different counties, and then you'd be trained. We underwent several trainings, and then you become the trainer of trainees. You go back to your county and you offer trainings to your other colleagues. And as you said, setting up these screening units is way cheaper than when you come to therapeutics, like treating it, and especially treating advanced disease. I personally, we usually go their programs to Lamu. There is certain timing where we do free screening. And for last year, you see, the screening is something very simple. Like for prostate, you just need to identify who are the patients that you want to treat. Prostate is the most common cancer in males. So every male above 60, we need to do a simple blood test. So we had
really? Blood test can
a PSA. It will give you an index of suspicion if this patient is at high risk or what. PSA is a tumor marker that is released from the abnormal prostate cells into the bloodstream. So the normal value is 0 to 4. At this screening time, we had 5 patients, I think, who had PSAs of more than 100.
Hey. You
say 5 patients?
Sana, yes. So what I mean is, if PSA is normally 0 to 4, you see, for the male, for a male patient to come to the hospital, this person is elderly, above 60 years of age. Most common symptoms
just so that we have a perspective.
Yes.
I'm over 60 years of age.
Okay, you should come with your PSA.
So I've just appointed information. So yes,
after the show you're going with her.
We are not an endangered species. We can likely still be seen. Yes.
So
Carry on.
just mine is to get the information out there. It is important to have yearly PSAs, and according to the results, you can know how more frequent you can be doing them. And all this is to get your diagnosis at an earlier stage, because it is treatable with a curative intent. Understand? So most of the male patients who come in, the most common symptoms are usually urinary symptoms, like someone goes to the toilet, frequency, urination, and all that. But it's mostly associated with old age. You'll be told, no, it's because of old age. That's why you have those symptoms, without you being checked. And sometimes we've had patients coming in when they are on a wheelchair. They're unable to walk. And what stage is this? The cancer has already spread to the bones. So someone, when you try and trace back the symptoms, when did they start? It's more than 5-10 years ago. So awareness is important. Setting up this screening, because they are simple procedures and simple tests that are needed, and also increasing the number of TOTs, trainers of trainees, that we can decentralize these units. And as Dr. has said, if we have that telemedicine, once we have the units and the healthcare providers, and have a communication system through which whatever they find, they can have a communication with the oncologist, and advice is given on what to do next.
So can you walk us through this setting of this screening, and walk us through the training? You're a TOT and you're training. What exactly are you training your trainees in? How long does this training take? And when they're through the training, what are then they able to do? And does the training also take to the point where they also now can train others?
That should be the whole idea. You are trained so that you can train others, and the training can take from a simple period of weeks, months, whichever, because it is a simple process. It's as simple as increasing the index of suspicion, knowing the risk factors, because you have to know whom are we screening. You cannot just go and screen everyone. So once you have the increased index of suspicion of what are the likely signs and symptoms that are associated with this type of malignancy or cancer, and then identifying who are your target population. Like also the cervical cancer, which is the #1 mortality cancer in Kenya, there is a high prevalence in the coastal region and the central region. And cervical cancer screening is also simple. We just need to do like a simple pap smear, but also letting people, getting the information out there, the importance of screening, the symptoms that patients can identify way early so that they can go to the hospitals, and also those trainers who are there, they can go to vijijini and try to identify those people from their homes. Increase awareness so that they are able to come and get the screening done. It's honestly a very simple setting.
You know why I ask these questions? I'm tying it into the question I had asked earlier on about the research component.
Yes, and once we have those screenings, that will be the first step.
Yes.
Because we can get our own data,
yes,
which will enable us to tailor our own treatment,
yes,
better.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can. You see, the understanding, if you look at, say, for instance, a community approach to it, communities have cycles of activities as to when they do what and how. For instance, a simple one is usually market day. Okay? People who were dealing with the health in women and children would choose market days, because market days in a rural setting is when women would have permission from their husband to yes, exactly, and they can then also visit a health facility. It won't raise too much dust. Now, the understanding of this need and the care-seeking behavior that people have adopted over time. When you talk of a cancer that is prevalent in men, you're going to have a problem, because we have terrible
health-seeking behaviors.
Terrible. We need to be dying, and we need to be taken to hospital for us to actually get there. So now, how do we change the thinking and then the behavior so that the approach is one where people understand that you don't need to be dying to seek health care?
You don't need to be dying. Yeah. Dr. I'll give that to you, Dr. Timothy.
Yeah, I like CT's insights, especially from his experience in terms of
men,
what and his wisdom, of course, being an elderly person.
You know, they're called elderly. They're being polite. What they say, this guy is old.
Yeah,
but the insights that he's gotten there in terms of, you see, like I mentioned earlier, we have got so much resources and so much potential to work with what is infrastructure that is already in place. Just to be able to collect this information, put it together, and make informed decisions about our treatments, about our collecting local data, which will advise where we focus our interventions so that we make an impact. So I agree with it. There's a lot of thinking. It is stimulating a lot of thinking, even for me as I sit here, in terms of what things we need to be able to do with what we have. But again, a lot of collaboration with the counties, because they're the ones that run a lot of those public facilities. True. But there's a lot of room for us to be able to do things. Because I must add, though, that I saw you being pleasantly surprised that there's a blood test for prostate cancer.
I didn't know that.
You seem to have been worried about the dreaded alternative.
I mean, there's where you have to put fingers where the sun don't shine. However, because and on still on that point of making this information public, every time you're driving on any road, you'll see billboards of a lot of things, from toothpaste to the telcos telling us how much bundles cost and so on and so forth. Yet we already know that information. Me, when I walk to a supermarket, I already know the toothpaste I want, regardless of the number of billboards I will see. When I know the kind of bundles I buy for my phone, regardless of what I see on the billboards. And I think we need to get to that level whereby we are seeing medical care on our faces every single day, so that we can be reminded. Because I could be having something on my foot, and then I'm like, by the way, I have seen HCG they have put up there. You know what? I think I might need to go to HCG and get this thing checked. But I will keep on having that pain in my foot until maybe now it's become too severe. Then I decide, you know what? Let me now go to the first of all the pharmacist. I get a painkiller. Kesi baadaye. And I think we need to get to the point whereby we are seeing you guys on our faces daily. So how you'll make that happen, I don't know.
I told you the background we came from was one where it was really frowned upon. Do you know, interestingly, in our guidelines before, there was a limit even to the size of nameplate you could put for your clinic or for your medical facility.
Really?
You couldn't just go and take a whole wall and say, Dr. Timothy Olweng, this and this. That was not allowed. There was a limit, very specified. These things have been relaxed over time, and I'll be honest, even the times these billboards you're talking about, the medical institutions were putting it, when they were put initially, people were like, these guys are crossing the line. And in fact, a lot of people were saying, these are the big boys, that's why they're allowed to do this, the smaller people are not allowed to do it. So it's something that we, as a medical fraternity, we still need to have very clear discussions of the pros and cons of this so-called advertising, if you want to call it that. But I think we are depriving the population of a lot of useful information.
You know, Dr. when you talk about the resources that we have, because I worked in HIV and AIDS care and treatment and research, the amount of money in terms of billions of Kenya shillings that actually landed in this country, and just the volumes of individuals who are trained, those resources exist.
Yes.
We don't utilize those resources. The intensity with which the care and treatment programs were initiated and practiced gave people training, because it is disease. Again, this same approach to prevention, cure, that same approach, a lot of these people are still out there, even in those communities that we speak of. These trained personnel are there. And there are people you simply need to spruce up and give, instead of HIV now it's cancer. And you specify the specific, but they already know the basics of what it is that we do. You are right. We do not utilize the resources that we have. Low-hanging fruit, they actually exist.
Yeah. But weirdly, some countries, like I studied in Egypt, I did my master's in Egypt.
Yes.
When you're walking, there are billboards, like all through, showing which doctor, where you'll find them, and what they do, what they're specialized in doing. Yes, everywhere, the whole city.
Yeah, because I believe when we start getting these volumes, perhaps at a bay it ends up kwenda chini. Yeah, some of these.
And that's what happens. One of the things about the volumes is that we're depriving our healthcare professionals of developing the expertise to refine their practices, and especially in the surgical disciplines and even the medical ones, because the more people you take care of, the more experience you get. You see, you'll get to learn what complications can arise. Not all patients are the same, so the more the experience. So the moment we start getting patients leaving and going out, and one of the biggest problems again about patients going out is they come back and the follow-up is always a problem. So the outcomes are usually poor again, because you go to India, you go there for a month, you have seen that doctor, then you come back, who is going to follow up? And one of the things that is being insisted upon right now is any facilities that are going to be out of the country must be associated with the local healthcare provider. That we've got a chain where you can have a person being referred there for some advanced treatment if necessary, and then they come back and the care continues.
Now, talking about healthcare providers like surgery, as Dr. has mentioned, you see, for oncology, I mean the cancer treatment, it's not just any surgeon who does the cancer treatment. You must have a surgical oncologist, and we have many in the country. We have hepatobiliary surgeons, we have breast surgeons. Hepatobiliary. So it's like surgeons specialized in surgeries for the liver
or hepatic tissues. So talking about kidney, the liver, the lungs,
the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. Hepatobiliary. Now we have specialized surgeons. We have them in the country, several. We have breast surgeons. So like subspeciality, like the surgery part, we have them. They're available. And I think now letting the public know who is available where and what they're able to do, we need to take it upon ourselves and see how best we can go through that.
Yeah. So there's something I want to go back to, and we mentioned it in the first hour. It was about the environmental factors that are probably contributing to our cancers. And you've mentioned Egypt, and I probably want to ask you, I hope you will be able to answer this one. Do they have, those countries, whether it's Egypt or any other country that you've traveled to, do they have similar issues in terms of their environments that are also contributing to their cancers? And are they as bad as what we have here in the 254?
Okay, talking about Egypt, yes. Like for the longest time, HCC was their leading cancer. HCC is hepatobiliary, hepatocellular carcinoma, and it's cancer of the liver, primary liver cancer, and one of the risk factors is hepatitis B and C. So the HCC prevalence was very high, and this was secondary to high incidence of hepatitis B and C in the country. So there was a national program which they vaccinated their whole population, and over time, the incidence of HCC really went down. Are
we talking about recently, or are we talking about something that happened like in the 80s or 70s?
No, recently.
Okay.
Because like you'd be in the clinic, you'd be told that the program is still started like maybe 5-7 years ago, and that has really resulted in the decreased number of HCC cases. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is there. And also like India has a lot of head and neck primaries. What might be causing this? They are chewing what they chew usually. What is that?
Kuber.
Something of that sort.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
So it's there.
So it's not a Kenyan issue that
No.
really bad.
The environmental factors like what surrounds you, the epigenetics, really shapes which cancers are seen more frequently in this region.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because yesterday we sat here with someone from pesticide something, I'm forgetting the name, but they were talking about the pesticide ban. And one of the main issues that they actually brought up was the fact that those pesticides that the country is banning or has banned, it is because they were also contributing to high levels of cancer in Kenyan the Kenyan population. So
but are they really banned, or do we still have them coming in through? Maybe we can ask Dr.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that have been banned. However, the same banned substances are coming in through our borders, so they are contraband. Chini ya maji zinaingia, zinafika, unfortunately bado zinaendelea kutumiwa. So daktari, nikuulize, in terms of collaborations again, and you mentioned that now you need to speak to the Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that in that particular area we can take care of those pesticides. In these other ministries of whatever fisheries, we're also dealing with that particular situation so that we don't get mercury-laced fish from the oceans. How far is that conversation going? And maybe you can let us know if it is a difficult conversation, the challenges that you're probably meeting in terms of having it as well.
It's a difficult conversation, and it's not just in this country, in many other countries as well. Anything where there's significant commercial interests, it's always a difficult conversation. And then again, there's also perceived benefit by some of the same users. For example, you might have a pesticide that you don't think should be used, and the farmers are very happy with it because it enhances their produce and so on. You understand where that commercial aspect comes in. But government, I told you, is a very complicated animal and how things are done within government.
Right.
I'm head of state corporation in the Ministry of Health. I cannot reach out to another ministry, for example, for interventions.
Or without going through the hierarchy.
It has to go through the Ministry of Health.
Right.
So again, it has to go all the way to the cabinet secretary, and they talk to their colleagues, and then these interventions. You understand how those discussions...
Is it possible then, as much as you might not necessarily officially talk to this person, but chances are it's someone you probably went to school with, probably your neighbor in Shags or in Nairobi. Is it possible to just pick up the phone, call him or her, have this conversation, then now tell him, look, I'm going to tell my boss, who's going to tell my boss's boss, then eventually barua itakufikia.
Yes.
Ikufikia, tafadhali make sure that
those informal conversations do occur, yes, but at the end of the day, for something to happen and change on the ground, it has to be a policy change. There has to be something that is done at that ministerial cabinet type level through parliament, all those other bodies. But one of the roles that we have is advisory. So as we give the advice, and then we wait for the system to move. And sometimes it's also dependent on the office holder. For example, our current CS of Health, I must give him credit, is somebody who is a mover and a shaker. He gets things done. So at the end of the day, we are very optimistic in terms of some of these initiatives that we want to push, or that have been pushing, are now moving a little faster.
Me, I can't work in Gaval. I'll get mad
I
on a
wanted
daily.
to ask about delays, but then he mentioned the current CS is very aggressive, so okay.
He is.
He is.
If he reminds one of the
Mishuki.
Mishuki. Yes. In fact, he's what we use as an example. During COVID, the CS we had then was also very visible and did the sort of things that I was referring to. How did we know about COVID? We're being informed daily. Daily.
Yes.
But you see, take back to what Daktari has said, that was an infectious disease.
Yeah.
It was an infectious disease, but I'm talking about the communication about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The communication was local.
Yes.
It was consistent. Okay. Let me talk about something that I mentioned yesterday, which was not a communicable disease. When we're changing the 1,000 shilling note.
Correct.
We were flooded with information, and you were told the number of days after which that note that you have will no longer be useful, to the last day. you could not say you did not know.
Yeah. In fact, I lost 6,000 shillings after that. When I found it, I was very, but I couldn't even bother to go and try and appeal. I'm like, we were told.
Yes, we were told over and over. You see, that degree of details, I don't need 10 examples. I see it once, I know it can be done.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to approaching a disease that is killing people, and which you can actually manage at a very, 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 very community level, and you don't, then the question has to be asked, come on, it's been done before.
Better,
Why are you not doing it? But there's a resistance that one sees sometimes, and from you esteemed medical practitioners. Something that goes to the community and is left in the hands of them to manage before it's cascaded up. The question that's often asked, do they have medical training? And the question is, does everything require medical training? I'm asking the question, does everything require medical training?
No, it doesn't.
No. Must everybody go to medical school or KMTC to be able to understand certain fundamentals? I look at something which was done in Homa Bay County, ICCM, Integrated Community Case Management. They're looking at malaria, pneumonia, diarrhea. How you can manage this thing at a community level, where you train a regular villager on how to diagnose and treat these three. Just the resistance to it, and you're saying, this is diarrhea. It's not difficult to determine. Okay, pneumonia is tricky, but you can actually train people and understand. Now, the finding is now what was the proof of the pudding. That study, it was a 3-year study, determined that you actually reduced hospital attendance by something like 75%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it means the burden that these people would have brought to bear in the health facility, it was sorted out at village level. Now, you tell me, many of the things we speak of, is it not possible for us to at least reduce whatever goes up into the level 4 or 5 hospitals, even to the point where you don't even go to the level 2 or 3?
It's very possible.
That is the essence of the primary healthcare approach. And that is why we want to be able to have a shift to the left in terms of at the more basic community level. And by the way, even in terms of the number of facilities, the bulk of the facilities we have in this country are actually level 2 and 3.
Yes.
That is the bulk.
And there are many, and they are all over the country.
Yes, distributed all over the country.
So we just need to empower.
In terms of SHA, we're looking at a...
Right. Go on.
You went there.
You went there. When you said what you said, he was listening to what he was listening to. Go on.
In terms of SHA, talking of SHA, treatment of cancer. We obviously, as a country, we have been put into this particular situation, and I remember I asked you at the beginning of the show whether we have enough money going to cancer treatment, na ukasema ukweli haitoshi. Pesa iko lakini haitoshi. Now here we have a situation with the Social Health Insurance Fund under SHA, and a lot of everyone, including myself, I'm hoping everyone has taken up SHA. Now, where we are as far as cancer treatment and SHA, tafadhali to elaborate here, is it working as Kenyans envisioned it would, as the government presented it to us?
There were
Umetoa jasho jembamba. Please carry on.
There were a few initial challenges, especially administrative and so on. Right now, by and large, people are able to access the benefit that they're getting. The benefit, I know, is still not sufficient, all right? Because cancer is a very expensive disease. So there are certain circumstances, and cancer, again, as told you, is a whole set of... If you ask me, part of the problem we have is that we're handling cancer as one disease.
Okay.
And it is not. There are going to be certain types of cancer where that might be sufficient, depending on the stage where they find it and so on. And there's also going to be a significant number where it's not going to be enough.
Okay.
Ideally, if you were to ask me, if it was possible, we would map and say for each type of cancer, we've got different levels of cover. Right now, we've lumped everything and said we've got a certain amount. Of course, this is the beginning, and I know that is complicated. It would really complicate the benefits tariff if you were to say every particular type of cancer and stage we've got a certain allocation. That should be ideal. So that having been said, people are able to access the benefit. Is it enough for all cases? No. There's still going to be circumstances where it is not enough.
Okay.
But that's what's being done.
This morning, I encountered a discussion, a very interesting discussion that's coming to work. And the discussion was around, again, treatment and management of non-communicable diseases a stroke. Somebody gets a stroke. I know we're not supposed to ask the shark question, but one hears of these cases more and more. The underlying issues that bring them about is a different discussion, but I'm interested in the communication aspect within the healthcare fraternity, because we say government should do it, but I am saying medical practitioners should be involved in communicating these things, because we don't go to the government for treatment. We go to the hospital and we see healthcare practitioners.
Yes.
Unless there is a caucus or a body of medical practitioners complaining about something to do with the healthcare that is being provided, the communication of what is available and what's possible isn't heard of adequately.
Correct.
So it means cancer will also suffer.
Yeah. I think what you asked is a fundamental question, is the common question we hear all the time, is SHA working? All right? And now specifically when we talk about in terms of cancer, the answer is not actually a simple answer. It depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, that's what
All right?
every government official who has sat there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what they say.
And I'll tell you, it depends on who you talk to. And I'll tell you why.
Now, please, after that time, let me comment on SHA.
Yeah. I mean,
depends on who you talk to.
Right.
If you talk to this person who was within that benefit limit because his condition allowed it, and he went to a facility where the tariffs made sense, and he went and there was no out-of-pocket expenditure, for him it is working. If you talk to the healthcare provider, the institution, SHA is only going to say it's working if that reimbursement comes and it comes on time. All right? If you talk to the policy maker, he'll have a different perspective, because interests are all different. So it's a very complicated question. Like I said, depending on who you talk to. If you talk to the person who goes and he's got a condition where the doctor tells them you need 800,000 and SHA is covering 550, for him it's like, this is not working. All right? Yeah.
Dr. Rizara, tafadhali.
Okay.
She's coming from a clinical perspective, so she's going to be swinging a little more harder than I am.
From a clinical perspective, I think we've moved into the era where we are treating with targetable drugs. For certain stages, you have to know what drives that cancer so that you can give the proper treatment. These targeted therapies are expensive, and some, if not most of them, are not within the cover, because this patient has to get continuous treatment. It's not a treatment here 1, 2 months, 3 months, and then that's it. It's continuous treatment.
Are you able to give me what is in the cover? What's not in the cover?
So, for medical perspective, the SHA covers 540 per year.
Okay.
Per household. So the question still I was asking, what if you have a couple both diagnosed with cancer? This is a situation I experienced in the last week with 2 couples, both of them newly diagnosed CA. One had prostate, one had breast. That was one couple. The other couple, one had prostate, one had upper esophageal cancer. So this cover 540, if it's per household, who is going to use this cover and who is going to benefit?
So we don't divide the 540 between myself and my wife. It's just me or my wife.
Yes.
And this is for
That's
cancer
correct.
treatment.
That's correct.
I think, or technically, by the way, you could still share it as long as it still gets to the 540 maximum.
Yes, but it will not be enough.
But you know something? That's how insurance works. Because if I have insurance for my family,
Let me just
please go ahead.
Let me mention, NHIF used to be per spouse. So with NHIF, you used to have 600 per spouse.
So 600 for me, 600 for my babe. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So NHIF was different.
NHIF was extremely different. Absolutely. But we don't have it.
Yes. Now with SHA with the medical perspective, it covers 540. We've had situations where there's exhaustion of the cover, and I think the renewal time will be in October, if I'm not wrong. So we've had some situations where there's exhaustion of cover, and patients are left
uncovered.
Okay. Yes, those situations have happened. Now that's the medical perspective. For the radiotherapy perspective, SHA covers as one modality. And with radiotherapy, there are different modalities of delivering radiation. You can deliver by 3D, by VMAT, SPRT. The more advanced the modality is, the more expensive it is. So with a cover as one, maybe it's not the best. And also, the same diagnosis, see a breast, might be having different biologies, where there might be a patient, this cover is very sufficient, but there is a patient who needs dual blockade of anti-HER2 therapy, and it's not sufficient at all. So I think maybe we should sit and determine treatment not as one whole,
Yes.
but individualized according to their types.
And by we,
their
you mean the
biology.
government?
Let me say one thing here.
Yes.
I do agree that there are going to be exceptional circumstances, like what she mentions. It doesn't happen often.
Yes.
But it does
Saying-
happen, Daktari.
Okay, it does happen.
Yes.
But what
Just
I'm
not
saying is
often.
this.
Yes.
What I'm saying is this. There is room for the paying body to be engaged in these exceptional circumstances
Yes.
to make exception, especially given this is social health insurance. This happened in the past even in NHIF. When NHIF was paying for 2 sessions of dialysis. If the nephrologist at that point said CT needs 3 sessions,
Yes.
there was room for them to be able to pay for that as well. That's what I think needs to be explored, and SHA also needs to listen. All right? That's what I'm saying. There's room for this level of engagement. But in terms of planning for a public scheme, you cannot plan for exceptions. You cannot say that we're going to have double the cover, because there might be circumstances when.
NHIF used to have, I know it's different, but we can improve.
I do agree, and one of the biggest challenges that SHA is having at the moment is the benchmark people are going to use is always going to be NHIF. However, let's be honest again.
Yes.
And I'm not necessarily defending SHA here. There are circumstances where SHA's benefit package is higher than NHIF. Have you had any complaints from renal patients, by the way?
No, not at all.
It's quiet because they are covering more than what was happening with NHIF. So those are the things I'm saying. That's why
the
there's
cancer packages.
There is what they call a benefits package and tariffs advisory panel, which is formed and is part of the act. So this panel needs to be constituted and listen to things like these and modify these panels. But in the interim,
this is why you
let
must
us
come
engage
back
them.
so that we can discuss this thing further. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely.
Daktari, madaktari, daktari wapendwa, dear doctors, we've come to the end of the show.
Good.
Thank you so much for availing your time, and especially off your busy schedules, just to come and discuss this monster that is the healthcare system, specifically cancer. And we invite you again, kindly, if you have time, come back here. Let's tackle some of these conversations, especially what we've just spoken about, the SHA situation. And if you can, tafadhali njoo na CS Duale kama unaweza kumpata. Tumekupatia hilo jukumu.
You want me to drag my boss here?
You won't drag him, you will just request him.
Okay, good.
But thank you so much nonetheless. This is where we come to a close as far as that conversation is concerned. However, in the next hour, which is the last hour, another conversation takes shape. So don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. Traders along Nairobi's Naivasha Road are counting losses after massive fire destroyed their stalls. By 5 in the morning, several units of fire brigades were battling to put out the fire. The cause of the fire that began in the wee hours of Thursday morning is yet to be known. Radio Generation's producer Robert Randall is in the area and says most of the affected businesses were carpentry shops.
A fire broke out at the junction of Kinyanjui Road and Naivasha Road, right opposite Midhill Hospital. The fire blazed a good part of the whole night to this morning. As of now, this place is still in smoke and embers. Great effort was put in last night by firefighters and residents, business owners around the area to try and maintain the blaze. So far, we don't have an accurate report on the damage and what actually caused the fire, but the damage has been done. The area is still being salvaged at the moment by various business owners who are in the area. Majority of the businesses that were in that section were carpenters, so there was a lot of woodwork to fuel the blaze. But at the moment, it's contained. The area is still in smoke, but the damage has been done.
Stephen Munyaku, a Kenyan who spent 14 years on death row in Saudi Arabia, has opened up about the incident in 2011 that changed his life forever. He regrets losing patience during a confrontation that ended with the death of his friend and a co-worker, Abdul Halim. In an interview with Citizen TV on Wednesday, Munyaku said the tragedy was not intentional, but a misunderstanding that escalated quickly. Though initially sentenced to 5 years, his fate changed when Halim's widow rejected the state's blood money offer and pushed for death sentence. Munyaku also spoke about his experiences while in prison.
It was quite, even though some of the things were good, like for example, the catering, we were being fed by the catering company. So you cannot complain when it comes to that. But other things like you cannot go and bask in the sun. It's just a normal environment without any activities, You just sit there, you sleep, you wake up, you pray. That's all you do.
Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, has raised concern that the measures put in place to regulate betting and gambling in the country were not adequate. The Kikuyu MP said the fight against gambling will only be won through an operational act of parliament that will discourage youths from engaging in irresponsible gambling. He adds many youths believe they can get rich through gambling instead of engaging in productive economic activities. He made the remarks on the floor of the House as MPs debated the mediated version of the Gambling Control Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2023.
Many radio stations and TV stations, Honorable Speaker, were free to encourage the public to bet. From as early as 5 a.m., there are radio stations that were running programs encouraging Kenyans to bet and gamble. We have seen young children, college students, commit suicide because of betting. They have gambled their money away, their school fees. Some gamble their subsistence allowance from their parents and from the Higher Education Loans Board, and they end up destitute, slip into depression, and end up, Honorable Speaker, some committing suicide.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has said his country plans to recognize a Palestinian state in September, becoming the third G7 nation to make such an announcement in recent days. Carney said the move depends on democratic reforms, including the Palestinian Authority holding elections next year without Hamas. His remarks came a day after the UK announced it will recognize a Palestinian state in September unless Israel agreed to a ceasefire and other conditions, and a week after France unveiled a similar plan. That's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning. I'm Winnie Maganga.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Radio Generation. Radio Generation assumes no responsibility or liability for the interviewee's views. This is Radio Generation. In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast, curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast, your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Radio Generation. The time right now is 7 minutes past 9 o'clock. We've had a very useful, great and fruitful engagement in the last hour. So if you've missed it, don't worry, you can still go back to our channels, that is on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, on TikTok as well, and most importantly on our website na pia pale YouTube. Just search for Radio Generation and you'll get to see that conversation in its entirety, and I believe it's gonna help someone out there. But right now though, we take a different turn because we want to talk about fostering democracy and accountability in Kenya. And with us in studio this morning is Joe Kobuthi. He's a media curator and policy analyst. Joe, karibu tena sana to Radio Generation. Yeah, let me just ask you to grab that microphone and put it in front of you. Yeah, another time chini kidogo. Good. I believe we're good to go. And my guest, my co-host on the other side,
my guest host today
is none other than City Muga. Yeah, so karibu tena sana to Radio Generation.
Asante sana.
All right, so we'll just get straight into this conversation about democracy in Kenya, and I'll ask you the most simplest of the questions.
Right.
And I'm sure this is something that perhaps we ignore and we overlook and we just go into other issues. Do you think we have proper democracy in Kenya? Underline the word proper.
That's a good question. No, we don't, certainly. But again, it depends on your definition of proper and definition of democracy, right? It's a bit more nuanced than that. We don't if you use the framings of liberal democracy as been framed by UN, World Bank, etc. We don't have proper democracy. We have a modicum of it, but we definitely don't have proper democracy. We're moving towards there, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a much more nuanced conversation than just labeling do we have proper democracy or not. I think we have to go deeper and try to unpack what exactly is democracy, what do we mean by it, and then also how do we get there as a society. Also, another question we have to ask ourselves, which I think is being asked not recently, a couple of years, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Mo Ibrahim index talking about youth in Africa. Disgruntled. They like democracy, but they're disgruntled about the slow gains it's making, and hence you can see there's a kind of shift, not just across Africa. There's a kind of shift, but also appetite, but also love for the likes of people like Ibrahim Traore, who and may not be democratic in that sense, but implementing political programs that have much more appeal to their populations. So I think we have to go deeper than just we have to go deeper in the conversation.
Joe, don't you think we've gotten to a point where now when we discuss democracy, we must first define what it is that we're talking about before we even start talking about it?
Absolutely.
Because the experiment with democracy in the West, because this is where we got it from, has pointed us to certain things that we never thought we would see, which are now happening. And that democracy and the way it is then practiced, it has raised very many questions that previously were not there. And so you want to ask and say, okay, we've had this form of government for a very, very long time, and it has been assumed that it was packaged in a certain manner. But we are seeing chinks in that armor. We were seeing cracks. It isn't quite what it was advertised as. And the question that is being asked is, are there other forms of government which actually work, which don't necessarily conform to the democracy that we have understood to be democracy all this time?
That's a powerful question. I think so, right? I think we have to really unpack what democracy is, because if you go down history lane, 36 years ago, actually, 36 years ago now, November, after the Berlin Wall came down, and the world went into this Americanization of history had ended, as we were told, went into this. We absorbed the liberal democratic model across the world, and we don't just sit in Kenya. We saw it in Chile, South Africa, when it was now the liberal democratic model. And what were prescribed for the world was that if you a free media, independent judiciary, separation of powers between in the executive, so you have a robust parliament and a controlled executive, that then you will have democracy. So I think the non-appeal that we are seeing now, it's not an appeal of democracy. Was that democracy as was packaged?
Okay.
Right. So I think this is what we have to first. So very simple question is, what is democracy? In the many definitions, I define democracy as the rule of the fittest, rule of the fittest in society, as upheld by the people.
Okay.
So because I don't believe in this idea of mobocracy. It's a tyranny of numbers, madness that we see. So you have a whole mob who are voting in the most bizarre kind of leaders, you know, and we are stuck in that kind of moment, you know, and we are seeing it now playing out in Kenya.
Right.
So I think we have to then ask ourselves if my definition is workable, kind of rule by the feet, rule by the popular feet.
Okay.
So the feet but popular. Then how then do we get there?
You brought in an interesting component to the discussion. This is now representation.
Right.
Why am I saying it? Is because when you talk about universal suffrage and people go out to vote in large numbers,
right?
Okay, this is a debate that has been had for the longest time. Should you allow every person to vote? There are those who've asked that question.
Yeah.
And if so, must it be at a ballot? Why I'm bringing in this discussion is I'm looking at the Chinese model. There are those who argue that it is not democratic. I actually think it is. In fact, I think it is one of the best forms of representation that one can see. And this is why I say it. If you look at the way the Chinese Communist Party is layered, right up to the village level.
Right.
The CCP.
Yes. When they have a national congress, that person from that village that you've never heard of, who happens to be the party leader, is going to come to that congress. And he's somebody who is known in the village. If there are issues, it is him. And it's not just one person. I'm using one as to demonstrate what I'm saying. But the views are listened to, and the process of leadership that they have assures a certain element of continuity.
Right.
That continuity is why that particular country was able to do what it has done in the last 30 years. Because of that continuity. You know, it started, the baton was handed over to the next person, to the next, and they have continued. But the thing that they have done, which previously were told you wouldn't find in a so-called communist country, is an open market. They have an open market. They are open to business. They do business. The understanding that the state was in charge of everything, literally, is not something that you see. So if we are saying that perhaps what we understood communism to be has also morphed over time, then it stands to reason that democracy must also morph over time to understand and probably adopt some of the tenets and the values that one perhaps saw in what we refer to as a quintessential communist system.
I mean, Joe, if we again just referring to the same Chinese countries, China rather, and you said that because you see, China is a social democracy; it's not necessarily a liberal democracy like the majority of the world. So, if do you think that perhaps we need to adopt something of that nature?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I mean, I mean, as